Summon Sign is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 15 of Summon Sign, Last Stand Media's weekly in-depth gaming discussion podcast. I am your host, as always, and joining me this week is Lockmort. How you doing, buddy?
Wow, that's very uplifting. Yeah, good to see you too. It's been a while. No, I've been great. It's been very busy, but it's awesome. I'm glad to be back. Thank you for inviting me back.
Yeah, man. I always love having you on. And shout out, Locke, you did a nice long video on, what was it, Retro Rebound?
Yeah. I did
LucasArts.
My very first solo video on Retro Rebound was
like
very
you
fun.
VO'd it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It was
I didn't know
completely
that Retro Rebound was more than Maddie. I know other people were doing work for it, but I didn't know that it was more than that. That's cool. That's great.
Well, we're trying to expand it. So by the time this goes up, there might be a few announcements regarding that. But the topic of the video was something that probably won't interest you a lot, I think, because it was point-and-click adventure games from the 90s. So that's maybe not
so
really
like the worst thing ever. But yeah, it sounds like, but nonetheless, it sounds like a great. Sounds like I'm sure it'll be a good video. I love watching documentaries about anything, so it doesn't matter. You know? Yeah. No. Fair enough.
Okay. Well,
congratulations.
Yeah. I watched some of it, and I need to finish it, but it's very good so far, Locke. I'm really enjoying it. It's cool. That's a big hole for me in gaming. Like, I didn't play any of those games, so...
Well, lucky you.
I didn't have a PC.
I hate adventure games. They make me feel stupid. Yeah, they've always made me feel stupid
since
I was playing
stupid.
playing like Police Quest and all those kinds of things, like text adventures, and I would be so mad. I'd be like, "What the fuck do you want me to say?" You know, like clicking away at my computer. I just didn't understand how to play those games.
Well, a lot of the video is about that, so maybe it would interest you. After
I should check it out. I haven't watched Mandy's channel in a while, actually, so I'm way behind on that. But
good
that'll
stuff.
be fun. Yeah,
that guy's a workaholic, man. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, he's young. Like I was the same way when I was his age.
That's true. Yeah,
and I don't. It's not sustainable. So what you want to do is just find like a good lane where things go. Like my instinct is always to want to do more, and I have to stop myself. And my wife stops me too, where it's like, I really think I want to do like videos again or something. She's like, you don't need to do videos. Like, why are you doing this? Like, for what reason? And I'm like, yeah, I know. It's just stupid. Some people are just like that, but I don't want, I try to give him counsel on that, to try to like be like, like him living in a house, like buying, I was encouraging him for years. I'm like, you got to buy a house. You got to buy a house. You got to buy a house. And then when he had that studio space, I'm like, you got to get rid of your studio space. You got to get rid of your studio space. You got to get rid of your studio space. You're going to love working at home. And so I might have even encouraged a worse sort of workaholism in some sense, because now he doesn't have to travel and all that kind of stuff. So now he just gets to work in his house. He never gets to get away from it. So it was kind of a backwards thing.
You're saving him rent money. So that's good. He doesn't have to
That's
pay
what bothered me about it. It's like, why?
Why?
Yeah.
Like, why do you, I understand some people like to have the space away. Like my dad's a social worker, an FDNY social worker, and he can't do that at the house. Obviously he has to have an office and people have to come to it and all that kind of stuff. But if you're like working for yourself, by the way, I was playing drums and the door's shut. So I'm just going to go ahead and
yes, no problem. Yep. Colin's walking, looks pixelated on my own. Oh, I like the slimes above his door. Do you see that, Locke?
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Those Dragon Quest slimes. It's beautiful. And of course, we have Colin Moriarty joining us, founder of Last Stand Media, all of our bosses, our big boss.
Thank you for having me.
Serve him.
So I took the headphones off, opened the door, I come back, and you guys are just laughing, like knowingly laughing. And I'm like, what, did they call me, like a fat retard or something when I got up?
No, not yet. Yeah. Give it time.
Locke, by the way, thank you for having me. It's good to be here. Locke, I haven't talked to you, I don't think, since the live show, but loved, what was going on there. And thank you for your hard work and your industriousness. We're obviously going to have to talk soon, because you're probably going to have to fill in for, or if you have time, fill in for Dustin when he's gone. If not, I don't know.
We're fucked.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah,
it'll work out.
I'm sure. I feel like I owe you money too. Have you billed me in like the last 6 months for anything you've done?
I think last time was June of last year. Yeah, but once a year is fine to me.
Once a year. Okay. All right, good. We're paying you once a year.
Once a year.
Fantastic. It's good to be here, man. Thank you for having me. You guys are both in different places, obviously Europe and California, but over in these parts, we're having the solar eclipse like imminently.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. And I have no interest in seeing it. to be honest with you. But I was laughing at, first of all, I've seen them before. I saw one in 93 or 94 in Maine, and I looked at it with my own two eyes, by the way, just like Donald Trump. And I don't recommend that, but I did do that. And Dagan and I were laughing before because Dagan's downtown Philly right now at work, and he was just texting me. He's like, look at all these people. Like, look, he sent me a picture of people on the top of the buildings, like looking for it or whatever, and waiting for it. And I was like, it's cool. And we can look at pictures. But you know what I love to think about with the solar eclipse? Not even the ancients, right? Like not even Plato and all these, like, it's like, go back prehistory where they had no predictive qualities with science and they really didn't understand anything. And then this just happened one day. That must have literally ruined like entire lives. Kingdoms came and went, you know, like it's like the comet. If you guys have seen or read Game of Thrones, the comet that appears, like which I love, like as a portends an omen or whatever. I'm so fascinated by all these things happening when no one had any ability to understand what was happening or why, and how scary that must have been for like the moon to devour the sun. And like, I love that shit. So it's cool now, but we understand it. We can predict them. And they were able to predict them thousands of years ago too, but prehistory, no. So that's what I'm thinking of today. I'm thinking of our forefathers long ago in the savannah, and they were just out there hanging out, doing whatever, and then suddenly the fucking sun gets overtaken by the moon and all the light goes away, and they're like, oh my god,
end of the world.
Yeah, it's hysterical to me. Yeah,
it's crazy. I know Dustin was amped about it, so hopefully it lives up for him, I guess. Before we get to the show, though, check us out on patreon.com/laststandmedia. We greatly appreciate it. We could use your support as always. Help us grow. We want to be the top dogs always. So
yes, that would be nice.
Get us up there. Colin, I saw we have some new merch that just we announced recently.
Yes. So the merch shop, the in-house merch shop, is very successful, and it's great. And Mike is doing a great job, and Ben and Dustin are doing a great job in support. But it's taking over my house. And in fact, I was doing my taxes, and we can write off a piece of my house, basically the cost of the house, because of how much the business takes up of it. But it's taking up more and more that we constantly have to modify the number. It used to just be this room. Now it's like 2 bedrooms. Then it was the garage and like a walk-in closet downstairs, and now like half the kitchen. And so anyway, we want to sell more merch, but we don't really want to stow it away. Like we want to have like our normal run of merch that we would sell. And so we're trying to do like one-off sales now, pre-orders, and then we'll have them printed per order, you know, gross, and then send them out with other things people ordered or whatever. So this is a great way for us to do like a monthly drop. And this is the first one that we're doing, which is a Moriarty Raygun 2024 election shirt. Very similar to the sticker we've been selling for a while. As far as I understand, this thing's already selling really well. I think we've already hit the number that we need to.
Nice.
So come get yours at laststandmedia.store if you'd like. I think you have 2 weeks from the time we're recording, so it'll be more like 12 days or something by the time you hear this if you're on Patreon. And we'll have more coming. Dagan has done a lot of really dope designs. This isn't one of his designs, actually, but a lot of dope designs for Last Stand that I think we'll start rolling out in the months to come. So, yeah, we want to do different one-off drops. I'm working with Ramon, for instance, on like, could we do a vinyl of you know, our theme songs and things like that. So yeah, it's cool. It's just a good way to kind of sell some cool merch and not have to hold it in my house and continue to be eroded away in living space as we have more and more and more and more and more and more shit here. So yeah.
So the shirt is you're running for president. You and Chris. Chris is your vice president of gaming, I'm going to say. Of gamers.
It's sort of whatever. I would like to think of the United States, but the truth is that Chris is ineligible to run for VP. He's not old enough.
That's true. He's a little baby.
So we would be constitutionally ineligible, but I also said on Twitter that if I'm elected, I'm never leaving office. So it's not really about the Constitution to me. So I have the Constitution tattooed, on my arm, but as I say, not as I do.
As I do, I mean? Yeah. Well, if you win president, if you're president for gamers at least, because Chris is eligible for that, you guys can run for that. What would be your first thing you do in office as president of gaming?
Got to throw Sonic the Hedgehog on death row.
Yeah, I think that's
he can go through his appeals motion, but it's a kangaroo court, so he's wasting his time, and then ultimately we execute him.
Yeah,
so that would be a major promise for me.
Good.
I think that's good. He's dangerous. Yeah. That's a dangerous hedgehog.
Yeah,
he stirs up very dangerous crowd.
Yeah, they are passionate. It's so funny because since I was a little kid, Genesis came out when I was 5 in 1989, but Sonic came out when I was 7, 8, because obviously it came out a little after the Genesis came out, and I've always hated that motherfucker. Like, since I was a young kid, I've always hated him. I've always hated those games. I've always hated that character. Like, there was something in me. It's like the remnants of the Nintendo, like the major Nintendo fanboy in me.
Oh,
it's like, fuck this, dude. I hate these games. And of course, like Sonic 1, 2, 3. I don't care how you feel about them. Compare any of them to Super Mario World or something like that, like contemporary, and it's a joke.
Yeah. So is the GOAT.
I'm happy that you have your games and that you have your cute little hedgehog, and there's some sexuality to it, I think, and some sort of weird thing that's going on with it. But
yeah,
that would definitely be the first order of business, and I would send the secret police over to arrest him right away.
I think that's a great thing. I fully endorse that. You got my vote, Colin.
Excellent.
Big time.
Thank you.
Smart.
Let's see. Cormac Ronin. How's it going, lads? Here's a question to warm us all up. How do you all deal with gaming backlogs? Mine is quite big, but I've managed to narrow it down and really hone in on what I want to play. I've also turned off trophy notifications to combat trying to platinum trophies, which is becoming an issue. So what do you lads do? Thanks. From Cormac. Backlog. How do we narrow it down, boys? What do you do?
Well, I was talking about this recently on Sacred. We were talking about sales, and I used to do this thing with sales, especially on Twitter, like for many, many years, even back in my journalist days, where I would say, like, for this much money right now, you can get these games on PSN. And it would always be like this amazing deal. And it is, it's like an amazing deal. And I started getting sucked into that too. I owned most of those games, so I wouldn't have to really buy anything. But even when I was out of journalism and stopped getting games or whatever, like any game I wanted, I started buying a bunch of games during sales. Like, how can you not buy Assassin's Creed Syndicate for $3? It's like, like, I'm never going to play that game. Definitely never going to play it. But it's like, how can't you do it? And I feel like I was telling people in the audience recently, like, I feel like you almost waste money by going after these sales, and then you have this other effect of making your backlog worse and worse, and like the pressure raises. So to me, it's a combination of acceptance. And what I mean by this is that I accept that there are games and series I'm never going to get to. I think a lot of people know that, generally speaking, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, I do not like just jumping into a series. So a series like Assassin's Creed is so far gone for me that, like, I long ago was like, never going to happen. Any Assassin's Creed game that comes out, I don't care. I'm not going to play it. Right? Like, when there's a big Western role-playing game or computer role-playing game, like, that I feel like I'm not going to like or don't want to spend that much time with. Baldur's Gate is a great example. I probably wouldn't like it anyway, but I'm not going to even bother. It's like, there are just certain things I have to just make certain concessions, because I like playing a lot of role-playing games. I like playing Japanese role-playing games especially. And I like playing my shooters and all these kinds of things. But I like to have a different combination of things going. And so I just try not to make the problem worse on the back end by buying more and more and more, and not really monitoring it as a backlog, but rather like, here are selections of games that I have. So, and I try to download them onto my cross media bar on my PS5. So I was like, these are the games. And when I start running out of room, I start like making concessions. Like, I'm never going back to this. So like, get rid of this, download this next game. So right now it's like Hi-Fi Rush and Pentiment, Pacific Drive. There's like a few of them on there. And that's kind of like how I manage that backlog. The thing I'm excited about, though, is it doesn't seem, and I could be wrong, we don't know much about the future right now, right? But it just doesn't seem like there's that much coming out. Like, we got a bunch of games in Q1. I understand that because it's Q4 and most companies' financials, and they want to get their games out and count that money on their financial statements, which makes a lot of sense. But for me, I'm pretty excited. I've often said, and I really, really, really mean this, that they could stop releasing games for 5 years. And I would not run out of things. Not even remotely would I run out of things to play. Like, literally just shut it off. No more games for the rest of the decade. And I'd be like, I'm good. I mean, there's like a fucking 8 million. And then maybe I would get to Assassin's Creed. But I would get to games like Yakuza that I've never gotten to. Right. That I really want to get to. I would get to some of the Tales games I've missed over the years. I would get to this, that, and the other thing. Trails of Cold Sky. What is that? Trails of Cold Sky?
Trails of Cold Steel.
Trails of Cold Steel. I played the first one of those. That was really fun. It's like a broke down Persona, but it's fun. And so and there's like 8 million of those. There's a couple of East games I missed. There's like just, I don't like the idea of the backlog, I guess is what I'm saying. You have to disabuse yourself that there is such a thing. Especially, we play games for a living.
Right.
How are you, any of you, I can't keep up. Helldivers ruined my schedule. And I do this for a living. How are you surviving out there? No wonder no one's buying any of these games. You know, like there's too many of them.
Yeah.
Anti-backlog, anti-sale. Save your money and all of that, but just stop giving yourself worse and worse problems. You know?
Yeah.
I feel like you're wasting money by doing that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've stopped buying games unless I'm going to play them right away. Like I saw Unicorn Overlord for $40 and I was like, I really want to play that game, but I don't know when I'm going to get to it.
That's another one. Put that on the 5-year backlog.
Yeah. I was like,
when they stop making games for 5 years, I'll play that too.
Yeah.
You know?
Locke, what about you, man?
Well, I'm terrible with money, so I do the exact opposite. I buy every single game out there, and I usually buy them on Steam and on PlayStation, and maybe on Xbox too, if they're on there too.
Why?
When there's something,
why do you buy them for multiple places?
Well, because I put my office downstairs now, so I won't be doing it anymore now. But my TV is right next to my couch, and my office is upstairs. So sometimes I want to sit on my couch and just play something, or sometimes I want to sit in my chair to play something.
Gotcha. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. I mostly want to play something new, something exciting. So when there's a new game that comes out, I just want to try it. I just want to try it for a little. And Steam has this really cool refund function where you can play it for 2 hours and then you can refund it, but I always forget to refund it. So I just waste money there. But I really want to try everything. I know that sounds very, very stupid probably, but I get it. I don't have a family to support either, so I can just waste money on games, I guess. That's my only cost. I'm not an alcoholic yet, so I can just waste it on games. I think I've bought every single new game that's released this year, including Unicorn, whatever.
Unicorn Overlord.
Yeah, even though that one I didn't play yet because I know what it is. But I bought it because I keep thinking, like, if something happens to me, or if we get another pandemic, or if all my jobs suddenly end, then then I have a lot to play. So then I'll be playing this, which isn't smart. I know it's not smart, but just games are like a passion to me.
But then you'll be spending your pandemic loan on Steam as well.
That's true. That's true. That's true. So no, I don't really have a backlog. I play everything. Yeah.
Locke, you know what's also a bad idea is promising to play Persona 3 Reload by the end of the year, like you did.
And I will play it. I put up a schedule for me. I know when I have to play it. It'll be during the summer, but I'll play it just for you.
That's another one.
You said you're finishing Rebirth in summer. You're gonna be able to do both those bricks back to back.
I will. Okay. You'll find out tomorrow why, because there's a reason for it. But you'll find out why.
Okay.
That's ominous as hell. What is that?
Yeah, that is scary.
I don't know what that means. You know,
the Wii wars have begun.
Yes, they have.
Locke, I asked Colin this about what he would do when he becomes president. What about you? What if you became president of gaming?
You know what I would do?
Put all the weebs in camps.
You're gone. You're all gone.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm dead, dude.
No, I would reform you. I would send you to a Bethesda camp or something.
So it's more like the Chinese, less like the Nazis, right?
You could send me.
Yeah.
Come on, you could send me somewhere better than the Bethesda camp.
Well, you should be able to play Western games. I think Bethesda is a good start.
I
I'll
did. I've played Skyrim. I've played Fallout 3, and I did not finish 4 though. I played some of Starfield, and I hated it, and I quit.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Then you'll go to Eurojan camp and you'll play golf.
Oh no!
You'll play Generation Zero.
Yeah, no, man. That is a fate worse than death, dude. Please don't. Please don't, dude.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Yes.
Of both of you? Because this is interesting, because I didn't know this about Locke, and I've come to know different gamers in different ways from the way they interact with games. So like Jaffe never beats games, right? My friend Jez Gordon doesn't beat games. They play a bunch of things. It's weird for me not to beat a game I play. Like I either have to profoundly not like it or just fall off. So the last one I fell off of was Banishers, where I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. It's really good. I like it, but I just can't do it anymore. And that's probably like 1 in 10 games. So you don't beat games, you said, a lot, right? Or you play a lot of games. And you're talking about how you're going to beat Rebirth at this point and Persona at this point. So do you beat many games?
I think this sounds maybe really weird, but I think if they're deserving, yes, I'll beat them. Even if I don't really think they're the best game ever, I think if they're doing something different or something cool or something unique, yeah, I will finish them. I'll plan them in a schedule and I'll finish them. But if it's just a game that's not grabbing me and it's just not doing something original, no, then I'll drop it and I won't get back to it.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at the games that I've played over the last year, like what didn't I beat? And so if I go back to the beginning of last year, I didn't beat Hogwarts Legacy. I didn't beat Horizon Call of the Mountain. I didn't beat Octopath Traveler 2.
That's about it, though.
Dying Light 2, I actually started and didn't beat.
Oh.
Alan Wake 2, that's a good example. And then like I said, Banishers. Alan Wake 2 is busted for me on my.
You played on console, right?
Yeah, and the lighting was so bad. Like I'm sure it's I hope it's fixed now. They said it was fixed like twice and it wasn't. But so that's like 6 games I guess in the last year and change but I've beaten probably 30 or 35 games or something in that stand. So like it's like I get mad, especially in the trophy era. But that's me. It's like now, back in the day, no one would know, like if you were dipping in and out. But now you have the trope, and it's like
we got receipts.
I don't like being a vagabond like that, you know. Like I need to be like this. I play and beat the game. I'd rather play fewer games and beat it. So now, I've seen this about you, Brad. A lot of good feedback, great feedback about you. And one of the things that people love is that it seems like you play games like a machine.
Try to.
And that's so interesting. I don't feel the draw to play like that personally. Yeah. Like unless I'm mega into something, like really immersed in something, I won't play for more than 3 or 4 hours a day. You know, like it's just to me, I can't. And because I play these long games, that's going to stop me from really getting too far.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of it is when I do play a lot of games. Yes, I do like a lot of video games, which is a problem. When I play games, though, I take many, many breaks. I don't do like humongous gaming sessions usually straight. Like people play for 8 hours straight or whatever. I think that's fucking insanity. I'll play for like 2 hours and take a 30-minute break, couple hours, take a dinner break, something like that. So it helps break the pace up. I also don't really watch TV or anything. Like I don't watch that much stuff. So all my spare time when I'm just dicking around, I guess, just goes to gaming. And I stream pretty every now and then, so that gives me more an excuse to play stuff. So that's how I do it pretty much.
Sure.
Yeah, man, respect. I think that's awesome. Like what's a game that like came out where I was like, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is actually kind of like this, where I'm like getting more and more immersed and sucked into it. But yeah, I'm the same way. It feels like I'm paying attention to those warnings Nintendo used to give you, like take a break every
I have
hour. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not taking a break for the next 17 hours from playing this game. But I'm not like that anymore. I just maybe it's because I'm an old man now, but it's so interesting. I love the way different people interact with games. I feel like there's got to be a relationship, like a causal relationship between the amount of money a person spends on games and let me even dissect it even further. There's got to be a relationship between how much a person gets out of a game and how much money they spend, in the sense that those who beat fewer games probably spend more money, right?
Yeah.
You would assume?
Probably.
Yeah.
So beat your games.
Yeah. Beat your games. I definitely try to beat all my games. I don't like leaving a game unfinished unless it's garbage. Like Starfield was one of the last ones I bounced off of and never looked back, kind of thing.
Wow.
It was a buggy mess when I played. So
that game is so divisive that I want to, like, it's tempting. It's going to come to PlayStation, I'm sure. So
I think it will.
I mean, I don't know that. Like, I don't have that information. I'm just sure it's coming to PlayStation. And at that point, like, I'm like, will I be able to resist it? It's got this like total. I'm like, can it be so mediocre? I don't believe it. I remember saying I thought it was going to be a 9 on Metacritic. Like, I thought it was going to be like the slam dunk huge hit for them. But aren't you always surprised when you look at the achievements and trophies for games and how few people beat them? Like, it's often like a third.
Yeah.
Or even less. It's like, damn.
I know. Yeah, it's like, damn, dude. I mean, if I bought a game, I want to get my value out of it usually. So I want to play it and finish it. Or I feel like a chump. But I only buy stuff that I'm really interested in now most of the time, which is a lot of things still. So just gotta be careful. Lock, fear not, I will revisit Starfield when when I think like a big expansion comes out.
You don't have to.
Shattered Steel, or is that what it's called?
I know you're close with Todd, so I will.
That's true.
I will revisit it. Yeah, I think when I played it on PC, it was just not good. It felt very old when I played it.
What? That's the problem. Starfield. I'm not a huge Starfield fan either. I thought that it was one of their worst, or one of their least best games. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
But they have other games. Like you were going to play New Vegas, right?
Yeah, I need to play New Vegas. I want to play Morrowind also, but there's like rumors of a remaster or remake for that sometimes. So
I've never played Morrowind.
Yeah.
Or Oblivion. I only mess with Oblivion. Like I never played it like myself. You know, like I'd often, that was around the time I started it as a journalist, and I would, you get the games to mess around with, but I never really sat with it. That's why Fallout 3 was so mind bending to me, because that was the first game like that I ever really played. So it would be cool to get a remaster of those. I'm so unfamiliar with.
Yeah, you think they would have them out soon, but I don't know what they're doing.
Morrowind is too dated. You can't go back to Morrowind, but Oblivion.
What about Oblivion?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's one of my favorite games ever. That game, I think they're getting it got leaked that it was going to get a remake.
Oh,
right?
okay, like cool. I'll play that.
It wasn't the Nvidia leaks, I think.
Oh,
okay, good. Yeah, I would love to play those games. I've only played Skyrim from the Elder Scrolls games, so because I didn't have a PC till I was in high school, and I didn't have an Xbox either, where some of the games were, so I missed all of them. Mateus wrote in, "Howdy, fellas. What's the best prank you ever pulled on someone?" I got some.
Really, yeah, go ahead. I'm not a prankster.
When I was like junior high, we were little shitheads, I would say. We had, you guys remember like water balloon launchers and stuff like that? Where you would like pull it back, you have the water balloons. We used to, there was like a little narrow kind of alleyway, and we would shoot them at cars, which is an incredibly dangerous thing when I look back on it. Like we could have easily killed someone, but we used to do that a lot. And dude, TPing people's houses. We had a TP war with one of my friends growing up. His name was Chris. And we would TP each other back and forth. And we just fucked his house up one time so bad that he surrendered. Because his dad got really mad, I guess. So I was like, okay. But nothing like too crazy, Nothing like where we hurt someone. Thank God those water balloons could have hurt someone. But I can't think of anything else off the top of my head. Drawing on someone's face when they're asleep or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that the worst I've ever done is I told my brother that our school was having like a trip to Italy, and I sent him with his suitcase to the bus stop because I told him that they were gonna pick us up there, and of course they never came. So my brother was like,
"That's actually me."
Yeah, and it's the funny thing is my brother is like 6 or 7 years older than me too.
Wow.
So he wasn't very happy. But yeah.
Anything with you, Colin?
No, I'm just not much of a prankster, really. I mean, I'm probably done something, but I don't. Nothing even really comes to mind. I don't really like fucking with people.
Sure,
because I don't want to be fucked with. I feel like it's a weird energy. It's cool. It's funny that people do that stuff, but like you see these. I'm not on TikTok, but you see them circulate on Twitter. I guess people just copy them and put them there, like these videos of people, like current day, like TikTok pranksters and stuff. And I'm like, this shit isn't even funny.
I know.
Like
it's bad.
It's funny, like when you talk about egging and TPing and doing all those things, like the classic like 80s movies, to people's houses. Like you're really fucking with adults at that point. You don't even realize it as a kid because like you're really like,
you don't.
It's just funny to me. Yeah, it's so yeah. I never really got into that sort of thing, to be honest.
I wonder if kids still do TPing. I feel like I haven't seen a house being TP'd in a long time.
There's probably like some digital variant on it.
Yeah, they're probably doing some heinous shit nowadays.
Yeah. Dude, after the toilet paper thing in 2020, we can't be TPing anymore.
Yeah, that's true. You're right.
We're running out.
Oh,
that's true. You got to save it up.
Yep.
Yeah, they're probably doing really fucked up shit now. I think about it, dude. God damn, dude. Kids are freaking wild nowadays. Something with Sonic, probably. I don't know, dude. Colin, have you seen a Sonic movie? The live action ones?
No. Oh, God, no.
Man, no. I would love to hear what you thought of those movies.
No, I haven't. I can't say that I have. I mean, I don't know. It's not even the character that bothers me so much at all, really. It's
right.
It's how. What are people like? What are you doing with these games? Like, what are I've played many of these games. It's not like I'm speaking from ignorance. I remember playing Sonic when I was a kid, and I don't want that shit. You know?
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah.
And I also, even when you go to like Sonic Adventure was pretty good, but like you go to like Sonic Heroes and stuff like that, I'm like, God damn, this shit sucks. And I remember being really, it was like a capitulation, but seeing Sonic games begin to come to GameCube. And
that was weird.
GameCube.
Yeah,
I think that
GameCube
those are
was sick.
some of the only like core GameCube games I don't own, because I own so much on GameCube. Look, he was so disgusted he left.
Yeah, he's gone.
I am left. I spilt some drink on my desk, so I need to clean it up.
What are you drinking?
This is like a leftover energy drink I had. It's called Alani New.
Bummer. You got to go Windex it or whatever. You go get a little.
No, it's okay. No. It's good. It's all good. I got it, dude.
Fair enough. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
So it's not even. It's not even that big of a deal.
I know. I'm being melodramatic. So again, it's not the character. It was just how secondary, like how second place it was the entire time.
Second class citizen. Yeah,
exactly. And so it's cool that he's having his moment. Sonic is arguably more famous and more popular than he's ever been right now. I think the previous game is the best. Isn't it the best selling Sonic game?
Yeah, it was.
Whatever. So
it was a big one. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I'm obviously on the. I can't. I guess what I'm saying is I can't believe it. Like they actually did it. They found some sort of true cultural relevance. Like Sonic's turn of the century cultural relevance really came from Dreamcast in some sense, but really more just going to GameCube and just the weirdness of that, of like Mario and Sonic at the Olympic Games. It's like, what? I remember like seeing things like that and being like, what? If you showed me this like in the N64 era, I would be like, what is this weird fan art, of this weird game that's never going to exist? Of course not.
Yeah.
And what's funny is that Sony really killed Sega. So it's like this weird triangular thing where Sonic ends up going to the competitor and also ends up kind of with Microsoft a little bit. Microsoft's obviously with Xbox and instrumental. And I'm sorry, with the Dreamcast and getting the Dreamcast, like the Dreamcast ran on Windows CE, I think, or some sort of kernel of it. Anyway, I'm going on and on, but I think Sonic is trouble. And I just have a big problem with Sonic, and I'm going to have a big problem with Sonic for the rest of my life. There's really nothing he can do at this point.
Have you ever talked to Maddie about this? Because Maddie loves Sonic.
I just agree. There are just things where Maddie's a Rangers fan too, which is like 70 times more offensive than him being a Sonic fan. Like I hate that team. I hate the New York Rangers so much that it causes something in me, but. So no, I don't even go when I know someone does. We don't have to even go there. We don't need to talk about that. Nothing good can come of that. And I'm not even being facetious. It's like, what am I going to say? I'm going to hear him talk about how he loves something and I hate it. So I make him feel bad. It's like, what's the point? Yeah. It's like when people tell me, I say this all the time, people tell like my favorite band 311, like 311 sucks. I'm like, doesn't really matter to me, but like, why do you even want to tell me that?
Yeah.
Like, what is even the purpose? So, and Maddie knows, by the way, deep down that Sonic sucks. Like he knows, like deep. If you put him on acid or something and like got the right conversation going, gave him mushrooms or whatever, you can extract this information out of him because he wouldn't be able to protect it anymore.
That's true. I mean, look what Sonic did to Chris Chan. He's got to be stopped.
It's crazy just because I didn't realize until I watched the Chris Chan documentary, or I watched like some of it. I didn't watch all of it because it's hundreds of hours at this point.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that he was like a big Nintendo guy, or like there was some sort of, and then he hated PlayStation, but then he loved PlayStation and he's always hated Xbox. And Brad, have I said it to you on the show, or do you know, like he lives in like my county? He lives.
I knew he lived in Virginia. I didn't know he lived that close to you. He went
to my brother-in-law, my beloved brother-in-law is the head of a bunch of schools, the principal, the head of principals. He's like a PhD or whatever. And I told him, I was like, one of the schools he oversees is Chris Chan's old school, like where all of this shit, like all of these tales come from. And I'm like, and I was like, he was like totally had no idea what I was talking about, which I was so surprised. I'm like, because I would think, I was like, so is this a thing at that school? I was like explaining to him, I'm like, is there like a je ne sais quoi at that school where it's like this gets passed down between the generations, or like you have teachers that taught Christian? He's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'm like, that's so disappointing,
Yeah.
Because you would hope it would be like part of the lore.
Yeah,
of that place.
in my opinion, he's like a local legend for you guys.
Yeah, he should be. Yeah,
he is.
Like
I mean, I said this so much on Sacred, so I'm sorry it's redundant, but like when he sends now like these newer pictures he sends out, it's like that's my Walmart that he's at, or like it's like so strange, you know? It's like that is literally the Walmart down the street.
What are you gonna do if you see him? What are you gonna do if you see him? Stay away?
No, man. I would like to think that I would at least say, I'm not gonna do anything weird, but I would like to say hello. But I think that you just leave people alone. I want to be left alone if people recognize me too. Not because I'm a dickhead, but because it's like you're not really prepared for that, or you're like, who knows when you're catching me, you know, or like in what situation. It's best to just kind of let Christian be Christian, I think. So I've not seen it, but people do see him. They spot him around here. So. Would
you give him a little nod or something?
Yeah, maybe I got a knowing glance, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I think I'd stay away. I'd be terrified of that, man.
Yeah, me too.
That's scary shit, dude.
I was just disappointed that like I assumed this was going to be like some lore, like deep school lore. And he was honestly like, I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, you would definitely know. Yeah. So I guess this is not even a thing. Like they've scrubbed it. It's been excised from everything.
The annals,
And that's why it was so important to have a 93-part episode, documentary about his life.
Jesus Christ.
Or whatever it was. I have no idea what it was.
That's absolute insanity. Good Lord. Quickly, Lock, what do you think about Sonic? I want to know.
What do I think about Sonic?
Yeah, what do you think about Sonic?
Absolutely nothing. I've played it a couple of times. Well, I know Sonic very well now, thanks to Maddie, because I edited all his videos that we did on Sonic on Retro Rebound. So I know what it's. I think Maddie is really caught up on the story. Like Sonic is supposed to have like a really big, that's what those videos told me anyway. I don't know if that's true. I guess Maddie wasn't lying in them. But there's apparently like a deep story in Sonic Adventures, and then recently they had another Sonic with like a murder on a train or something. Like,
dude, that was like a visual novel thing.
That was like the free game, right?
Yeah, it was free. I played it. It was weird.
I dare you to tell me what the deep story of Sonic the Hedgehog is. I fucking dare someone out there to make me compelled by what could possibly be happening in that world. There's no way you can spin that story into something meaningful to me.
There's a channel called Retro Rebound, which has a lot of videos about Sonic, and it explains this. Maddie explains the story very well in every video. He's really a fan of it.
I'm concerned.
Yeah, we got to keep an eye on that boy. I'm a little nervous about Maddie. He's working so much. He loves Sonic.
He's delusional.
Yeah, he's gonna snap.
He's so tired. He's so overworked that he's become delusional.
Yeah, that's true. Worst of all, he's a Rangers fan.
Oh my God. It's just the Rangers and the Islanders are on a collision course to play in the playoffs potentially.
Yeah.
The Rangers are very good this year. The Islanders would just barely make the playoffs if they do, and they would play the best team, which would be the Rangers. And this is a bad omen, because in 1994, the Islanders and Rangers last played in the playoffs. The Islanders lost in 4 games, so swept, and the Rangers won the Stanley Cup that year. I have a lot of angst right now about the whole situation.
Interesting.
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
What do you think about the Ducks?
The Ducks.
That's my team. That's my local team.
Are you I asked you if you were a sports fan, and you said no, but you are.
No.
You're.
I mean, like, I root for the local teams always, but I don't go out of my way to like watch or do anything like that. But
so like the Angels.
Yeah, if they do well. I mean, the Angels suck, but I like the Ducks the most, just because hockey's my favorite.
Yeah, the Ducks are an interesting team. I love them. I love that hockey has these strange markets that thrive when the teams are good. So like Anaheim's an example of that. Vegas is doing really well or whatever. And then you have these teams in strange places where it's not working out too well, like Phoenix and other spots like that. But yeah, I'm not much of a Western Conference hockey is like almost, it's not even something I paid.
Yeah.
I pay cursory attention to it, but we play the Ducks only twice a year. So.
Okay. Got it.
Once home and once away.
All right. Let's finally talk about video games.
Yes.
That's what the main point of this podcast. Lock, we're going to start with you, man. I am so curious about this. Rise of the Ronin. Team Ninja, they're back. They won't make a Ninja Gaiden game for some reason. Still bothers me. But they're back with an open world Neo game, from what I understand, pretty much. Kind of.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Rise of the Ronin is a perfect example of what we talked earlier about, because I knew nothing about this game. I saw the trailer at one point, and then I figured, oh, this looks pretty cool. I'm going to buy it. So I bought it, and then I played it for a couple of hours. And I never really was that big into Neo because it was simply too hard for me. I like Souls games. I love Souls games, but Neo was just too hard for me. Like I couldn't get into it. But this one is a lot easier, or so it seems to me.
Oh, does it have difficulties?
It does have difficulties.
Okay.
I have it on normal, so I didn't touch it. I think it's called Dawn, Dusk, and then something else, I guess. I just have it on normal, like I didn't touch it. But it's also not really a Neo game. It's more of a Ubisoft game. It's got like a huge open world with a lot of map points and stuff like that. But it's really interesting. It's not great. So I see people have a lot of negativity towards it. Like they say that it looks bad and it looks like a PS3 game and it doesn't play right. But I can definitely see where they're coming from. It's more like a PS4 game than a next gen game, definitely. And it also has to go up against Ghost of Tsushima, which is of course a huge issue for a game like this.
Right.
But I'm kind of enjoying it. I think it's pretty fun. It takes place in 19th century Japan, and when it starts, you basically make two characters, which is cool, which I didn't know you had to do. But you make two characters, and then one gets taken out right after the intro, and then there's a whole story surrounding that and why that is, and maybe you can find them again. But it's really cool. What makes it so awesome to me is the combat. Like I said before, I wasn't really into Neo because it was too hard for me. But this one, its combat is very gory. It's very fast. It's almost arcadey. But you have this parrying technique, which kind of reminds me a little bit of Sekiro. Not all that much, but the parrying you use in this game is called, I think it's called Counter Spark. And it's not parrying like in most games. Like your parry in this game is basically also an attack. Okay. So when you parry right, you basically get somebody in the middle of their attack while you attack as well, which is really cool.
That's
which
cool.
is that really makes for different gameplay than the usual stuff in these games. But the thing that's not that great about it is that it's so filled with loot everywhere.
Oh, dude, yeah, they go overboard with loot in those games, man.
It's almost getting ridiculous right now because I've only played like I think 6 or 7 hours, and my inventory is like filled with loot that I'll never use. And it has these little stats equivalents to it, like it gives you like +3 this or +2 that, but it's not really that meaningful. It just makes you look silly or it makes you look better, and it doesn't. There's just too much loot. It's almost like a Diablo game. But without the fun that accompanies a Diablo game. So the loot system isn't really that well worked out to me, but the combat itself is really cool. You have skill trees, just like any other Ubisoft game, I guess, but the skill trees have some interesting counterparts to it. I think you have a couple of them. Like there's like dexterity, there's like strength you can rely on, but there's also one that plays more on the emotional side. Like you can lie to people, and that's like a charm perk that you can pick, and then you can lie to people, and that also reflects on the weapons you can use or the weapon combat systems that you can use. So that's pretty interesting. That's really cool. The world itself is pretty bland from what I've seen so far. It looks okay. It looks like a PS4 game basically. So if you don't expect anything too crazy, you won't get that disappointed by it. It's definitely not a bad game, because I saw people when it first released, everyone was like really negative towards it, like, oh, this is a bad game. But it's definitely not a bad game. It's just like a lesser Ghost of Tsushima, if I have to subscribe it in a Ubisoft world. That's basically it.
What you're describing to me sounds like a nice swimming in sevens right here. Nice 7.0 game, which I'm totally cool with.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
The loot is alarming to me when you say this. I've played Neo 1, 2, and Stranger Paradise, and the loot is so annoying in those games. I fucking hate it. It's cool. Like, it does have that ARPG kind of thing, I guess, Lock, where you're like getting tons of loot, but it's not really cool loot where I feel like I'm changing my build dramatically. Maybe there is stuff, but I just never felt like that. So you're talking to me about like lying to people in this game. That's very unusual for their games, like having dialogue kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, that's what grabbed me the most. It's like the story. I don't know if it's good yet because I'm only 10 hours
I was
in.
going to ask you, how's the story?
Yeah, it's like I think I have no idea. I knew nothing about this game, but I think from what I've played is that it's pretty long. It's probably like a 100 hour or 70 hour big Ubisoft RPG. So I can't really speak much to the story, but what I've played so far is interesting to me.
Okay.
Like it's really different than most other games. You know, now that I'm talking about it, it kind of reminds me of Assassin's Creed Odyssey, maybe a little bit.
Okay.
Not in the way the story unfolds in the combat, but in the way it unfolds. Like you have this world and you have these people you can interact. So it's an Assassin's Creed game, I would say.
So is it kind of like is it like divided up into zones and the zones have their levels or whatever? Where it's like, this is this level.
No, I haven't. It's possible that that's true. I haven't encountered like higher levels because I'm just following the story thread. So maybe that's possible though. That there's like different zones with higher levels, but I haven't encountered that yet.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if it like lets you kind of just explore the entire world if you want, or it's more like we're gonna direct you here, then here, then here kind of thing.
It is heavy directed. I think you can get off the beaten path, but because I didn't have time, I didn't do that. But I think that's possible because you get dropped pretty fast into the open world and you can just basically go anywhere. Cool. I think the only issue is that enemies, what I've played so far, again, I'm only like 10 hours in, enemies respawn to, which I really don't like in games like this. So
sure.
I remember even in the first level, in the tutorial level, you're like on a ship, just one location. And when you leave the room and you come back, all the enemies are back, which is not, which is
like
not
an NES
really,
game.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a B game or like a B movie even. The way the dialogue is in the game is also like a B movie. It's fun, but if you only play like one game a month or one game a year, or you're one of those people who only plays a couple of games, I don't think.
Yeah,
I would wait for this one.
Yeah. I'll probably pick it up when it's like $30 or $40. That sounds a nice time to snag it. Okay, so the open world, what kind of things are you doing in there? Like side activities?
It's the standard stuff. Like you find cats you can pet, you can have bandit camps, just little conglomerates of enemies everywhere. It's a standard Ubisoft stuff. I don't really understand why they did that because I think this game would be a whole lot better if they didn't. It just reminds me of those games we got like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't think there's a problem with those kind of games, but I think just the tasks you have to do are interesting. And like, I don't think there's anything wrong with like a checklist necessarily, but it just needs to be interesting when you're doing it to keep you going. But if it sounds like it's just the same thing over and over kind of again, it's like,
It is, but the main quests are very expansive, very beautiful. You also get like, I won't spoil it, but you get like cool stuff to traverse. It's not just a horse. You can get other stuff too.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah, keep going. Like, so you get the horse. There's like a glider thing too, right?
What? There's a glider. There's some other stuff too. You also have guns. Like you can get rifles or you can get bows. So yeah, the combat is really what pleasantly surprised me with this game. I don't think if it didn't have this combat system, I wouldn't be that interested in it. But because it's so fluid and so arcadey and so fun, that really attracts people to it. That's why I also think that the open world. It's a shame that it's not like a better open world, but because the combat is so much fun, it's also not really that distracting.
Okay, cool. It seems like an interesting step for Team Ninja, who's been doing like stages, I would say, for a very long time with their games. So it is cool to try to see them expand upon it. It sounds fun. Like I'll play it someday, Lock, but I'm glad my expectations are like in check though with this game.
Yeah, maybe if you're interested in the time period too, because it's really cool. I didn't even notice because I don't know anything about Japan, but apparently Japan was closed down, and then in the mid 19th century it opened back up, and then so there's Americans in the game too who just went to Japan for the first time. And
read about Commodore Matthew Perry is his name, not the Matthew Perry we know, but and it's called. That's where the term gunboat diplomacy comes from, because we basically wanted to open them up, they wouldn't allow it, so then we sent this guy over in the mid 19th century with like a bunch of boats, and we're basically like, we are trading here now. I mean, whether it's not a great thing really, but it's like we are trading. Like basically was like the thing, like because they were completely closed off. There were I can't remember the name of it, but there was one port where Dutch and Portuguese traders at various times could trade in and out of Japan, but that's where they had to stay, and they were not like, they were just like no foreigners anywhere except for like certain, like one-off white men that like ran into the into the interior and ended up being embraced as like a Japanese person, a samurai or whatever. You hear those like random stories, but yeah, that's basically the way it was. So it's that's why it is a cool period to tell a story, because it is a very Japan goes from like a very agrarian, weird, backwards, insular, samurai run society basically with that kind of old structure into 80 years later fighting the United States in the Pacific. It's pretty with like, and giving us a run, it's pretty wild shit. Yeah. So good stuff, man. I love history. That's the only reason I know that is because I'm into it. There's no reason you would otherwise know that, I don't think.
Yeah. I was oh, go ahead.
The first enemy you fight, like the first American you fight, is Matthew Perry.
Oh, really? Is it really?
Funny.
Yeah, it really is.
That's so funny.
Yeah. I didn't know that was a real person, because I kept thinking, why did they pick that name? That's so disrespectful.
Yeah,
okay, no, that makes sense now.
It's funny because I have this very vivid memory of my siblings making, I'm the youngest of four, as you guys know, and like my siblings making fun of me because I was like, oh, it's something about in the 90s being like, oh, it's Commodore Matthew Perry, and they're like, oh, fucking idiot, it's not Matthew Perry, guy from Friends. Oh, and I'm like, no, it fucking is Matthew Perry.
That's hilarious. Colin, I know you have zero interest in playing this, but would you be curious about it just from a historical standpoint?
Well, I actually am interested in it the way it's it's described by certain people. We have a taxonomical problem with the term Soulsborne. I'm going to keep hitting this nail over and over again. It bothers some people, but so be it. People are describing this game as a Soulsborne game or a Souls-like game. And I'm like, okay, that could be. Team Ninja made Neo, Team Ninja made Wolong. But as you noted, Team Ninja also made Ninja Gaiden, Team Ninja made the latter Dissidia games, and so on and so forth. Even Marvel Ultimate Alliance like 3 and weird, shit like that. It's like, what kind of game did they make here? Are you saying that it's a Souls-like game or a Soulsborne game because it aesthetically looks like one? Or are you saying it because it plays like one? The more that I hear about this game, I realize that people are really flippantly throwing this term around, and I think doing games a disservice for people like me that do not want to play those kinds of games. Right. Now, I have no disrespect towards that genre. I think it's awesome. I know it's like the get good genre. I'm not good, and I don't want to get good. Game like Elden Ring that I played for 20 hours, I like was really struggling with it. It's just not the way I play games. And ironically, the last game in that genre, like, definite game in that genre that I played was Neo, the original one. And I played it in 2017 when it came out, but then I tried it again, like earnestly in 2020 and around the time at the start of the pandemic. And that game beat the shit out of me. Like, it was hard. I got further than I ever got, but I got to this boss basically probably 15 hours in or 20 hours in where I'm like, I am never going to be able to do this. I have no idea how you're supposed to do this. Like, it's so when you bandy around that term, and then a game like Rise of the Ronin comes out where they're like, oh no, it's like a Ubisoft game and it's arcadey. It's like, so that's not in any way, shape, or form the definition of what a Soulsborne or a Souls-like game is. And people even wrote into me being like, difficulty is not the core of those games. I'm like, yes, it is. Like, yes, it is. That is the core. I don't need to know that as a player of the games. I need to know that as the observer of the games. That is obviously your entire get good scrub shit comes from two genres, the Soulsborne genre and the fighting game genre. So don't tell me that like difficulty and inaccessibility is not part of it. Of course it is. That is the entire idea of the game. And people are like, no, it's about campfires and regenerating enemies. It's like, I'm like, no, I mean, that's certainly a part of it, but I'm like, regenerating enemies, that's not, there's a million games that do that intentionally, and that are not anywhere near a Neo or a Wolong or whatever. So that's kind of where I know it's, to some people, it's like a trifling and annoying thing, but to me, it means a lot as a player because I don't know what the fuck anyone's talking about anymore with this stuff. And Rise of the Ronin was positioned like, even when the previews came out, some people were like, oh, it's definitely like Neo. And some people are like, no, it's not. It's not like anything like Neo. And I'm like, dude, you can't both be right. Don't you understand that you can't both be right? Mm-hmm. And so I really feel like I need to play it now because, first of all, I like Ubisoft games. Not all of them. I'm not, like I said, I'm not an Assassin's Creed guy, but I love Far Cry. And I like The Division a lot in those kinds of games. So I like my checkbox games. And that sounds fun to me. And that's not unlike what Ghost of Tsushima was. But I'm also curious where it positions itself with Ghost of Tsushima, because it's like, why was this greenlit? It's not just a third-party game. Like, Sony published this game and owns it. Mm-hmm. Why did they make a game like this that does feel and look a lot like a game that they already have in their first party? It does seem redundant. So from that curiosity standpoint, to kind of either convince or dissuade myself that that's true, it seems like a game I would like to play, actually. But like you, I don't feel the immediate need to buy it. Maybe I'll buy it at full price. I have no idea. I don't think it's a bad game. In other words, I feel like this is a victim of this taxonomical nightmare we're in, where no one knows how to describe anything. Where like 3D games are being described as Metroidvanias and shit. I'm like, no, like we can't do this. You know, like these terms mean something, and like you need to like figure out how to use those terms or come up with new ones. So I know that's like a little bit of a rant, but I feel very passionately about that. This Soulsborne shit's getting out of control. It's being bandied around like it means all these different things, and it doesn't.
All right, we're back. We had a little snafu, but we're good. Colin had a very impassioned Souls-like rant, and I appreciated it. It's very interesting to hear your philosophy on it, Colin. I think that's really cool. I do agree it's a term that's thrown around too carelessly, and it can mean a lot of things when you say that to me. I do think difficulty is a core aspect of it, Colin. Like you were saying, I think that is.
I think it's the core. I don't understand.
I don't think it's the core, but I think it's one of the largest.
What would be the core? What is the core then?
A lot of it is the mechanics of resetting an area, kind of like how you're saying the bonfire. You rest somewhere, a lot of stuff resets. The challenge is a big thing, no doubt. Getting souls or whatever, some sort of currency when you kill guys, leveling up like that. When you die, you go back to your body or anything like that. You get it. You get your health back. But the difficulty is probably the most standout kind of thing. Just like when you look at it on a very broad surface, the difficulty will, of course, stand out. In the gameplay, a lot of it is very more methodical, not Ninja Gaiden. You know, It's like the targeting of how you do it. Ninja Gaiden was much more like the camera was almost fixed in a lot of ways when you're fighting guys. Like the old Devil May Cry games were like that a lot too. But it's kind of involved to behind the character, stuff like that.
I would consider Ninja Gaiden, like old Ninja Gaiden, even NES Ninja Gaiden, but old 3D Ninja Gaiden, arcade action.
Arcade action, Like you're doing like combos in those games. You're doing like combos. You know, when I think of Bayonetta, you're like square, triangle, hold this button for a certain amount of time, release, kind of stuff like that. Devil May Cry is like that. You don't really do that in From Software Souls games, I'll say. Even in Neo, from what I remember. You're not doing like crazy ass combos. You're not air juggling people or anything like that.
It does have elements of what you just talked about, though, because it does have like if you die, you lose your karma, and then
they have some elements, but they have their own twist on it, where their take on it stood out to me as being much more different than a lot of other people's.
It is
kind of approach, as like opposed to like Lords of the Fallen, how they handle it or stuff like that. Rise of P, how they handle kind of stuff like that.
It's also way easier. Like if difficulty is a Souls game.
What was it? Stranger of Paradise had that too. It seems like they just kind of included that in a lot of their games, which is fine. Gets a lot of people would probably try it. Colin, you're also talking about why Sony would kind of invest in this kind of thing. This like it's another samurai game, I guess, kind of.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a million different verticals.
I wonder if it's a big play for Japan. In a lot of ways, Colin, because Ghost of Tsushima was very well received in Japan, and this game has actually been selling very well in Japan.
Yeah,
like it's sold more than Dragon's Dogma and stuff like that. I think it's sold more than Rebirth, maybe, perhaps, but the Japanese gamers seem to really like samurai games right now, at least good ones.
Yeah, I have no problem with that, and they are a Japanese company, and you embrace that sort of thing, and I think that's totally great. I'm just confused in an era of such a dearth of releases. and so many different potential things you could do. Why you would be like, we're going to do we're only going to do 8 games and 2 of them are going to be samurai games. Like what?
Well, it was
like, all right, like that to me is like,
it's like when they did, Days Gone, when you have The Last of Us already, it's like you have a little spin on it, but it's still like a zombie game.
And
so
they are mindful of the stuff. Like Resistance 4 was not greenlit because of The Last of Us.
Right.
Like they are mindful of, or at least in part, because they knew that game was coming and it's going to be like 2 similar dystopian fucking weird creature thing. So yeah, I mean, it's I would assume like from a business perspective. So with you guys might recall the Neo games were PlayStation exclusives, but they were, I think, self-published in Japan by Koei Tecmo Koei, or it's Koei Tecmo now. And Sony published them and I think might even partially control the IP, but published the games outside of Japan. And they probably made a nice amount of money doing that. And so they probably looked at it and said, like, let's just go.
Yeah.
Instead of doing Neo 3, like we'll take like the financial risk off your plate. We'll start a new IP that we own and we'll distribute it for you. I feel like that's probably what actually happened. And when you look at the dates of the games like 17, 20, 24, that makes some amount of sense to me, but yeah, it's an observation. It's really not an important observation. Yeah. The bigger observation to me, is just the way we classify games. And like, it's funny you say like, so you go and save and reset enemies. It's like, well, that happens in Castlevania games.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not.
So like, you can't like.
Well, I guess at a save room, yeah.
You're right. So it's like, I'm not saying it's exactly the same. I'm just saying
there's elements from past games. Souls-likes didn't invent everything that it does.
Right. It's just the specific permutation of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, but I ask, it's like, and Dustin said this to me, which I thought was interesting. I was like, so what is the easy Soulsborne game then? And he had said like the easiest that he could think of was Star Wars Jedi
Survivor.
Fallen Order, as we had noted on one of the episodes. And I was like, yeah, that's interesting because I played that game. I beat it, but I thought it was really hard. Actually, like I was like surprised by how hard it was. I think I dropped the difficulty to easy on like one of the fights at the end.
Yeah, that's okay.
Towards the end. Well, I do that with the God of War games too. Yeah. Not the real game, because the real game's somewhat easy. But when you get to like the Valkyrie Queen and all that, I'm like, I'm not doing this. So
totally.
Like I'm not sitting here doing this. I have nowhere near the skill level to do that. So I think I totally get the get good kind of vibe of a lot of these games, and I embrace that it's not for me. Yeah. So people have to understand that has been interpreted as by certain people like me, and then we're wondering why games that don't look or feel like we thought that term meant are coming out and being described that way, because it just puts us off. So I just think it's not like I want to say it's unfair. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's just like it sucks that people like don't want to categorize things in a more acute way.
I mean, it's just like, to me, like indie games, it's just like that gets thrown around so loosely.
Right. Like, what does that mean? Yeah,
exactly. Same thing. Couple questions for you. This is from Church. Hey, Brad, I want to start by asking Lock if Rise of the Ronin's visuals are as bad as they appear on YouTube. In every video I've seen, the visuals look terrible with early PS4 quality. Is this representative of the actual game, or is it mostly the downgrade of quality videos on YouTube? That's it, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't call them terrible. It doesn't look terrible. It just looks... Yeah, it just looks like a PS4 game. I think that's a good comparison.
It runs at 60, right?
Yeah, it does. It does, yeah.
Okay.
No, it of course, that's the problem with this game. If Ghost of Tsushima didn't come out, then this game wouldn't be regarded as negative right now. But because Ghost of Tsushima came out, it looked so beautiful. It looked so pretty. It played so well. That this game does look worse than Ghost of Tsushima. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I think people need to realize the difference between not necessarily defending this game and its visuals, but first party stuff is always going to look the best. Like Horizon Forbidden West still like looks like the best out of one of the best PS5 games I could think of, and visual, like running also. It's Definitely. Like insane how good those games look. And I don't want to give too many games slack, but it's like no games to me are going to look as good as first party kind of stuff like that. And they'll always look good. But I can imagine what this game already looks like. I can already see it in my head because it is a Team Ninja game and I just know what their games look like. And it's not going to be like crazy tech blowing you or anything like that. Yeah. So it's just, for me, it's business as usual. I think there's more to games than graphics. I understand graphics are important, but I love good graphics, but like the gameplay, man. Always remember the gameplay. Make sure.
Yeah.
I mean, some games are ugly as sin. Like I remember when Xenoblade Chronicles came out on Wii, I thought it was the ugliest game I ever played, and I stopped playing it because it was so fucking ugly to me. But give them a little more chance, you know? This next question is from Jonathan Rumor. Hello there, summonists. Hope all is well. My question is for Mr. Mort. How do you feel about that, Mr. Mort?
Mr. Mort.
That's nice. Yeah.
Okay. But you can all chime in. The setting of Rise of the Ronin really interests me, and the graphics don't bother me, but I'm pretty awful at Souls games. My main issues are how indestructible or inscrutable some puzzles can be, and how hard they can be to identify enemy tells from attacks. Puzzles? How have you found the difficulty generally, and how easy it is to grind? Thanks. So they have a lot of problems with puzzles. I guess there's some puzzles in some games, like figuring out where to go mostly.
Yeah.
And how hard is it to tell enemy attacks? Now,
Okay,
my experience, I would just say, is Team Ninja games are harder to tell their attacks because everyone's very fucking fast in these games, from what I remember. Even big boys swing real fast. So what do you think?
Well, like I said earlier, Neo was a game just like Colin that I just couldn't beat. It was too hard. Like I couldn't do it. And this game, I have no issue whatsoever with any enemy so far.
Okay.
I've encountered one boss that was pretty hard, but still nothing like any Souls game or anything like that. That's why it reminds me more of like a Ubisoft game because it also the combat is also way more arcadey. Like you don't really dodge or you can dodge. I just don't use it. But I mostly use that special counter attack, like the counter spark, which works really well for me.
Cool.
So no, I don't think it's that difficult. I think a Ubisoft game is a perfect comparison. Like you can. If you don't think that Assassin's Creed Odyssey is hard, then you won't. I don't think you'll find this one hard. It's of course a lot harder than Odyssey. Don't get me wrong, but it's nowhere near Neo. At least on a normal difficulty. I don't know what it is
on hard,
like on the higher. Yeah, on the higher difficulty. Maybe it's way harder, but on a normal difficulty, it's perfectly doable so far.
You know, maybe this is not a bad place for people to dip their toes in to get ready for more challenging Souls-like. No, I'm just kidding. Types of games. that they're nervous about. Might not be bad. God, Colin, I want to guide you through a game. I want to guide you through Elden Ring so bad, Colin, and just I want to be your coach. So much
pressure,
man.
You know. It's like
no pressure, man. No pressure.
No pressure. It's the pressure to execute. You know, like people are expecting so much. You know?
No, man. I just want. I feel like there's something you could love about these games, Colin. I feel like we just need to find it, and I want to help you find it.
I did. I will say, like Bloodborne, I did play the most deeply, and I got towards the end, and then I just stopped playing it after like 40 hours. So you can't just jump back in. I don't have the requisite skill to play anymore at that level. But I was enjoying that, and I love the world, and I kept imagining it was Castlevania, and it was and it was really cool in that regard, and I liked it, and I liked Elden Ring. Like I really earnestly tried to play it.
You did.
I dug what they were not trying to do. They obviously did do well, but for me, I was just like, this is so difficult. Like this is
sure.
I don't know. I don't know why it's so. It's not that I can't. I think I've identified this. It's not like that I can't get good or whatever. And then in certain games, I don't get good. I'm especially. I think I would say I'm most talented in 2D, like really kinetic 2D games.
Oh yeah.
And some people find those games impossibly hard, and I think that's so weird when people are like, "Oh, Mega Man is so hard." I'm like, it's really not hard at all. Like, but
sure.
But that's because I've played it a million times. So it's really about what you're used to. But I think the problem for me is that I just don't like patient gaming. Like here's a boss. You can't really brute force it. Like when I play Mega Man, there are ways to beat Mega Man without getting hit. And I can do that in some games, like go long periods of time without getting hit. But when I play a Mega Man game, it's like, oh, I know how this boss fight works. I know that I can get damaged like this much, and I'm just going to run towards the enemy and just fucking pepper him and take half the damage, and then just say he's going to die in 2 seconds. Like, and that's the way I play. So like, I run into situations to just try to like get them over with chaotically and quickly. And these games are the exact opposite. And I'm ill-adjusted for those kinds of games. Like, it's just not the way I play. You know?
So I think with a little bit of knowledge, maybe, Colin, a little bit of understanding. I think knowledge is a huge part of these games to be able to overcome them. I think if you have a little guidance there, you could do it. Just a little coaching. I think just like some ideas would help. I know it's very overwhelming, especially Elden Ring, because it's a fucking massive game. I totally get it.
And again, like I like that the game. I like games that don't tell you anything. I like games that are like figure it out. Like that's cool, but it's just too brutal. And it was really a come to Jesus moment for me when I'm like, wow, man, you really underestimate other people's ability in playing difficult games when you see like Elden Ring's platinum rate, which is like millions of people.
Well, they all cheated,
like
dude.
millions.
They're all cheaters, like Dustin.
Oh, you think so?
Scum it. A lot of them.
Oh, well, I don't mind the save scumming stuff. It's a matter of like you can't really cheat your way through like the combat, right?
No, I mean you can look at like meta builds and stuff like that.
Right. So I totally get that, but it's like it seems like people are doing it. Like people are like, oh, I've gotten good, and I'm like, damn, dude, people are way better at games than I thought they were, and because you look at completion ratings like we were saying earlier, and it's like, damn, it looks like a lot of people are just not getting to the end of the game, out of time, don't like it, not good enough, whatever. Those are kind of the reasons you wouldn't get to the end. And I guess I overestimated how many people were not good enough, because when I see a game like that, or I see people just cruising through this, I'm like, this is pretty incredible to me, because I've told the story about Cuphead, which is a space I'm good in, where Dagan and I played it for a knockback, and I got to the third world or whatever. I like kind of cruised through the first world, and then the second world I had a little more trouble. Yeah. And then I got to the third world, I think, and then I was like, this is really fucking annoying. Like, I don't know that I've ever played. I'm like, even in 2D, I don't know that I have ever played a game like this hard in my life. Yeah. And I was like, my fucking nephew did it when he was in middle school, you know? And I was like, damn, I was even kind of stymied there. And so I famously on that episode, I'm like, I watched the rest of the show, on the game on YouTube. I'm not doing this. Like, I just can't. So that's an important part too, where I don't get any pleasure out of doing something and be like overcoming it in some sense. I like completing things.
Yeah.
You know, I like getting the story and the experience, but I don't want to. I'm playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right now, and it's like, I'm not getting to any boss and being like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to beat this guy. It's like part of the assumption is that it'll probably be fine. Yeah. Maybe you'll die once, but doubtful. And you'll figure it out. You'll assess him and all that kind of stuff. That's what I like. Okay. Is kind of the machinery of getting through something, but not like the mechanical prowess. It's like, I'm a big chess fan. It's not about like the way the pieces just move no matter what. Like you can do those like crazy flourishes and stuff, but nonetheless place it down on the square and it's the same exact thing. And that's kind of my grounding point, you know, for gaming, I guess, in some sense. Because I feel like people play games. So a lot of people play games, and this is great, but it's like almost feels like they play games to frustrate themselves. And I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be annoyed. That's why I hate puzzle games. That's why I hate adventure games for the most part. It's like I don't want to figure out where what I have to pick out of this environment that's important, and like it's like just I'll go back to school or something. You know?
Yeah. Colin, I'll say I think the challenge is fun in a lot of these games. I do like it. I think it's fun. But a lot of it to me is just like, I like fighting these bosses because they're fucking good bosses, man. They're really well.
They're super cool, dude. I've seen so many videos and they're super cool. It's like there's so much. That's what I'm saying. I'm not judging. I know you're not. I know, yeah. Well, because there's some games where I'm like, this game sucks. Like whether or not you like it or not,
that's
right?
Fine.
But like in my opinion, these games clearly don't suck. I suck, right? Like
I don't think you suck.
Lockmore, you don't even have to say there you go, Lockmore. Here you are. You have me saying I suck on video.
Thank you. I didn't even have to do anything. That's awesome.
Write it down. Yeah, Colin, I think you definitely have the skills to get through these games, but maybe one day, can't force it upon you. Maybe one day.
Well, it's also age, because I'm your age and I have the same exact problem. Like I can't do it anymore. Like when I play, I played like Demon Souls, like the remake, a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted to try it again, and it's just
and that game looks good.
It's still the best looking game ever, on the PlayStation, I think. But I can't do it anymore. My reflexes are just gone. The older I get, the slower I get. Like parrying and stuff. In this game, it works. Sekiro, no way. I can't do it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm 36, guys. I'm not a spring chicken either.
Yeah.
Come on. You can't play that age card quite yet.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I always thought like the physical ailment kind of part, when people would say, oh, if you don't in the 90s, well, you guys will all remember this, like it was a big deal, like type this way or you're going to get arthritis. And like, I just leave your wrists like this. Like people were always cognizant of these physical ailments that you would get from this digital world. And I was frankly always like, what a bunch of horse shit this is. Like, there's no way I believe any of this. And then as I've gotten older, I've realized, well, first of all, like my back is fucked up from sitting in these dumb fucking gamer chairs, and I got to like get a better chair or standing desk at some point. And I realized the PS5 controller, the DualSense specifically, I'm like, damn, my hands hurt. Like for real, my hand hurts. Like I don't know when that happened.
That's just DualSense thing. It's
a specific form factor thing, and on the triggers only. My thumb, I got NES thumb for days. Like that's not a problem. But like when you're asking me to do things on the triggers, I'm trying to think of a game like
the grip.
Final Fantasy 16, I think was one of those games. But there were others where I was like, damn, dude, I am so tired. Like
Resident Evil Village, man.
I would like have my other hand on the controller, like almost switching it to give it a break.
Yeah. That's totally common, Colin. Like Resident Evil Village hurt my hand with the sniper rifle. I remember I had to hold that sucker down so hard to like aim down the scope. It was ridiculous. So you're not alone. We're not that old yet, boys.
So it's true. But I guess what I'm saying is I can understand now more like that. I am going to break down to Locke's point. Like it actually is true. I guess it's going to be exposed by like certain form factors of controllers, like your own age and wear of your body and all those kinds of things. But I guess what I'm saying is I just understand what you're saying, Locke, because it was comical to me that people would be like, oh, my hand, like I have arthritis. I can't hold the controller. It's like, what are you talking about? And now I'm like, I need to pause during like Final Fantasy 16 boss fights,
Yeah, we're getting old. This question is from the Snack Squatch. Hey guys, just want to give a shout out to Rise of the Ronin. This game isn't the most amazing thing I've ever played, but it's a great time. I can't help but feel there are a lot of hypocrites with this game. A lot of people were complaining about the checklist Ubi style side quests. While I don't disagree with people in this regard, I think it's unfair that games like Ghost of Tsushima, that it's being heavily compared to, gets a pass. As much as I enjoyed Ghost of Tsushima, the side quests were all the same. Clear bandit camp, detective mode to find a trail, and find foxes. Rise of the Ronin side quests are near identical. Clear bandit camp, take pictures, find cats. Ronin doesn't have the polish and looks of Tsushima, but I do think the combat is better in Ronin. Anyways, why do some games get grilled for certain things and others get a pass for doing the same stuff? Thanks for all you do. Lock. So I haven't played this game, but I will say Ghost of Tsushima was good about hiding a lot of this kind of stuff and not making it feel quite checklisty. The wind did help a lot. Following something does help. And I remember Ghost of Tsushima, some of the side quest stories were actually really compelling. Yeah, particularly like the character ones that you would go through. Of course, there were some bandit camps, which is just, business as usual. But does Rise of the Ronin have anything to you that stands out the side quests? Like the character ones from Ghost of Tsushima and stuff like that?
Yeah, definitely. The only problem is, like I already said, it's a B movie, and Ghost of Tsushima is like a serious A movie. So you have like these really interesting side stories in Ghost of Tsushima. You have those here too, but there's like a comedic element to them, or there's like the dialogue is like almost laugh-worthy, and so it's just not. I get what he's saying, and I partially agree. I just don't agree when he says that Ghost of Tsushima has worse combat than this. I think Ghost of Tsushima has excellent combat, and this has good combat. But no, Ghost of Tsushima is just more serious in tone. I think that's where the difference lies, and it's easier to convey something in a serious tone than it is to make like a game of it. Like Ghost of Tsushima is like a serious movie, and this is like it's not a comedy, of course, but this is like
it's more goofy.
Like a blockbuster, and it's harder to care about a blockbuster than it is to care about a nice period piece.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of it. And I mean, I remember Ghost of Tsushima getting some flack when it came out for stuff like this. I mean, I remember that.
Well,
and just over time, people just kind of get over that.
I think my issue with Ghost of Tsushima was that once the magic breaks, like once you understand that, oh, the bird is going to take me to another spring, or oh, there's another bed. Once you're past that magic, it becomes kind of annoying. That's what Ghost of Tsushima did with me anyway. After 20 or 30 hours, I would just give me a map. Just give me, tell me where to go. Like I don't want to swipe up and have the wind guide me. That was cool for like the first 2 hours, but 30 hours in, just tell me where to go. This game has a compass, so it's much easier. I get why they're comparable, of course. They're like the same type of game, but Ghost of Tsushima is it probably has higher production value too.
Oh yeah.
I think if Ghost of Tsushima didn't come out, this game would do way better. But it'll be interesting to see when we get to see Ghost of Tsushima 2, which is soon.
Oh,
I hope. How it'll compare. But I get what he's saying. I think he's right in a few ways. The negativity towards this game is, like you said earlier, like Days Gone was to The Last of Us. I personally kind of like Days Gone. I didn't have that many issues
like Days Gone.
Yeah, but it got so many bad reviews.
Well,
and people
it wasn't in the best state when it came out, I'll say.
That's true. That's true. That's another thing about this game. No bugs so far. I haven't encountered any bugs. Yeah,
that's good.
So it's
cool.
It's really well polished. Yeah.
Did you play Ghost of Tsushima, Colin?
Yeah, platinumed it.
Okay, nice. Cool.
Nice.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, but I haven't, I never played it on PS5 and I didn't play the DLC.
Oh, you didn't play Iki Island? Oh. No.
I'm just waiting. So again, when the new one comes out, I'll play all that on PS5 and lead into it. Yeah.
Cool.
That's why I've been,
very nice.
I knew when people were like playing these and even transferring saves to get the platinum automatically and stuff, I'm like, you guys are so stupid. Like, don't you want to like be patient and you'll be able to like just do it all again, you know, and like leading up to it. So you have like better context. I'm so glad that I've done that with some games recently because it's I've gotten so much more out of like Spider-Man and so much more out of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth by having immediately replayed the previous game beforehand. It's too much for a lot of people. It's only something you can do when you do this for a living because otherwise I think you probably want to shoot yourself. But
yeah, definitely.
It's a lot of Spider-Man. You know, like 1 to Miles to 2. It's a lot of Spider-Man.
Definitely. That is a lot. Speaking of wanting to shoot myself, I played Alone in the Dark. I'm just kidding. It's not that bad.
I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this game because I think it looks interesting personally, and I like my 7s too. So
yes, this game I would say is not a 7. It's a little lower than that. I would say. I think the game has cool atmosphere. So just for full context, I have never played an Alone in the Dark game. I never played the original. I know a lot of people like the original. It's a very important game. Definitely, this is a remake of it, but I believe there's some stuff that's different about it. Story stuff that people kind of told me about. But I won't get into it. Anyways, Alone in the Dark is a cool game. I do like it. I enjoyed my time playing it, but it is very rough in some areas, particularly combat and gameplay, stuff like that. This is definitely a game where I played it and I was like, oh boy, the budget. If they had more budget, it could have been really good, kind of thing like that. The game takes place in a hospital kind of thing, like in the early 1900s. Around World War II time, I think, maybe a little bit after that, or World War I, sorry, a little bit after that. There are 2 playable characters that you can select, which I always love, the classic survival horror thing. You got the guy, I forgot his name, David Harbour, maybe is his name, the guy from Stranger Things.
The guy from Stranger, that's right, David Harbour, and from Gran Turismo, the film. Yeah,
I need to watch that. I never saw that. You have him and you have another girl. I think her name was Emily. That's who I played as because a lot of the stories seem to connect to her family. Her uncle is in this mental hospital, essentially. And some weird shit going on. Some very sketchy business going on. I won't say what it is. I don't want to spoil anything. But anyways, the environment is really cool. Going through the hospital is awesome. It doesn't look like a modern hospital. You know, it's like more of like a house turned into a hospital kind of thing. Really cool rooms, really cool ambiance, very cool setting. Love all that kind of shit. Very nice. The puzzles are okay. They're all right. You have like this compass thing you mess around with a lot. You use it, in my opinion, too frequently throughout the game to solve some of the puzzles. Like a lot of puzzles are based around it. So I got kind of annoyed with that shit. But throughout the game, you kind of warp to different environments, which are very cool. It's set in New Orleans or like outside of New Orleans. So it's got like that bayou feel and a lot of stuff like that. But a lot of the enemies are just like these weird, freaky, like white, kind of moldy kind of things. They remind me of almost Resident Evil Village. Or not Village, sorry, Sevens. But they're white. Not a lot of enemy variety in the game. Like barely any enemies, like maybe 3 types, I would say, through the whole game. And
that's awful.
Yeah, you got a couple weapons. None of them feel very good to shoot, I would say. They're all kind of iffy. You have a melee weapon that does not feel good. They tried to be like Last of Us, you find like a shovel or something, you pick it up, and after you hit a couple guys, it breaks. It does not feel good. It's very bad, I would say. Very poor. And the story is kind of interesting, though. I was interested in the story, which was nice, and I liked the ending of the game. But yeah, it's a cool game with some cool ideas. I love survival horror games. Going through an area, slowly progressing through it, unlocking new stuff, solving puzzles, learning lots of notes you can read. Very nice. There's a lot of notes, in my opinion. I had this problem with Control. Not nearly the level as Control. Lots of notes. Some of them are pretty long. I remember Control. It was just like, these are way too fucking long, dude. And there's way too many in this room. Like, why are you you're like pumping the brakes so fucking hard at this point? Like, ruins the entire pace of things. Survival horror games, please cut down on your notes, man. Do not make them so like 10 pages, all right? Get to the point quickly. But they're voice acted in this game, which is cool. I heard Yuri Lowenthal in this game with a little accent, which is always fun. Hearing Spider-Man in different games is always fun. But yeah, I have only finished one of the campaigns. As far as I'm aware, some of the cutscenes are a little different with them, and I think the final chapter for the characters is different, which is cool. I do like that there's some differences between them. So I want to play through the other characters' story, but dude, the boss fight, there's like a couple boss fights in this game. Jesus, they're so fucking bad, dude. They are awful, dude. They're not good. It's just a game. It sucks because overall, I like the game, but it is rough, man. It's rough in some areas. Like if you've played Resident Evil games, man, and you play this game, you're gonna be like, what is this kind of thing? But if you're big into survival horror games, I think it's worth checking out. I would not pay $60 though I'd wait a little bit if you could. Just wait a little bit. But yeah, it's a cool game, but it's got problems. If you're cool with like a 6 game around the 6 area, maybe high 6, you could have some fun.
You said it's like a remake of the first one, right?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, yeah.
I remember playing the first one in 93 or something on our family computer.
Yeah, it's an old game.
It predates Resident Evil, right? Like, but I remember in the first one there were like werewolves and stuff, but that's not in this. Like nothing like
no werewolf that I saw. Maybe in the other campaign, maybe. But I didn't see anything in the girls. Oh, dude. Also, I gotta say this real quick. So there are items you can use to distract guys, like a bottle. Like, once again, think The Last of Us. But you cannot store these items, dude. So you could pick up like a brick, and a guy could be very far away. So you just gotta walk around very slowly with you holding a brick, like ready to throw. I'm just like, what are you fucking doing, man? Why can I not store this kind of shit? And you can like throw items at guys off stuff when they're chasing you, but it's all just kind of jank. You could sneak past some guys, I guess. I barely did that throughout the whole game, though. Like, you just don't fucking need to do it. You can't get like a stealth attack or anyone like that. You just fucking run past guys. So it needed some work. But Colin, I know you're interested. Any questions about it?
You kind of answered a few of them just in terms of what you would think like the barometer would be. You talked about the combat, which would be something I would be interested in.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing that I'm curious about is like where they go from here with this thing. Cause isn't it curious that this game was delayed, presumably? Yeah. It's not presumptive. Like they said, like, we want to get out of this chaotic window of releases. And it's like, what were you doing in that interim time?
Yeah. I also ran into some bugs when I was playing the game, like just shit not loading kind of thing like that. Me being in like an avoid kind of also thing. I was playing the PS5 version, just so you know.
It's strange.
But yeah, I mean, otherwise it seemed to run fine, like frame rate and all that stuff. It looks fine. It is clearly a lower budget game. But it shines more so in the exploration kind of thing of just like being in the atmosphere. But the gameplay, it really falls flat.
Yeah. Embracer. Shout out.
Embracer, shout out, dude. Like, I'm glad the game exists. I just think if they had a bigger budget, it probably could have been much better. kind of game. I'm hoping a budget could have helped it a lot, but I don't know.
I wonder if the studio will survive Pieces.
Yeah,
Embracer
I don't know,
owns
man.
them, you know. So
yeah, well, at least they got to put out a game, I guess, at least.
yeah.
So
they did this before. Like I think this game already got a remake like 20 years ago. I remember. I think no.
Did they do like a Alone in the Dark reboot or something?
Yeah.
There was
like a reboot,
I played the only Alone in the Dark I played was a 2000. It was like 2008 or 2009 on PS3.
Yes.
That's the one I played. Is that a remake? Is a survival horror video game
or like a reboot?
Yeah, maybe it's like a reboot kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope they get another shot at it. I would like to see them try again. It kind of reminds me of what was that fucking survival horror game that had fixed cameras? Came out like a year or two ago. Come on, you guys remember?
Survival horror game that has fixed camera angles.
Yeah. Why can't I think of it?
I don't know.
You play as a girl.
Plays a girl.
Bandage over her eye. Fuck, I can't remember what it's called. I played it.
The Steam on Steam, like the
yes.
the indie game, like the
it was like on Steam. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a cool one.
Fuck. I'm so mad I can't remember. Hopefully I'll remember it later in the show. I know everyone listening is fucking screaming at me, but my brain is just fried. I don't know. I can't think of it for some reason.
I know which one you mean, and I can't think of it either. It's the futuristic one, right?
No,
you...
no.
Oh.
No.
And I have no idea.
I have to look this up.
Game.
Where was it? Not Signalis. It's not.
Oh yeah, that wasn't what I meant. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Fuck, man. I played it.
Is it Chaperone?
Tormented Souls. That's
Tormented
it. God
Souls.
damn it.
Oh,
Jesus.
that was the next one on the list because I just looked up.
Tormented Souls. That's it.
The 5 suggestions Google gave to me were Para Eyes, Chaperone, Tormented Souls, Broken Veil, Cover Your Eyes. So
yeah,
it's one of them.
It reminds me of Tormented Souls. I think Tormented Souls is like a little better though than this game. Actually, better, but it's like Tormented Souls is getting a sequel, so I'm really pumped to see how they change it. It just reminds me of that where I'm like, another go, then you might get something really good, really good.
Yeah.
Broderick wrote in, "Hey Summoners, this one's for Brad. Are you enjoying Alone in the Dark? While the combat is a little janky, I feel like the puzzles and environments pull their weight to make up for it. I'm almost done with Edward's story, and while it hasn't had me completely enthralled, I've enjoyed some of the beats it's gone through. Part of me hopes they continue remaking the series since there's quite a few references to the second and third game, but I just haven't seen anyone talking about it, and I was wondering if it even sold well. I'm interested to hear what you think of it, and if Lock or Colin have gotten to it." I'm kind of with you, Broderick. I think the atmosphere carries the game. I think the combat's worse than a little janky, I would say. I don't think it's pretty bad. But I do think it's enjoyable, and I did overall. I'm happy I played it, but it's rough. You know, I'm okay with some games that are rough a lot of times, but yeah, it's rough. Yeah, are you guys interested in playing? I know, Colin, you were interested in playing it. I don't know about anymore, but
yeah, I don't know if I mean, there's just so many. Who knows if I'd ever even get to it?
Right.
I'm open to games like in the middle and experiencing them and seeing what's good about them or whatever. But it is interesting to think like no one does seem to be talking about it. I doubt it did sell very well. Yeah. It could be that the game was made on such a shoestring budget that they were able to support this team, which I think is European. I could be wrong. And get another game out or all that. But I just don't.
Yeah.
Why would you? I mean, why would you do that? Even if you wanted to keep the team intact, like why would you have them make another Alone in the Dark game when? But this was an IP that Embracer bought. You know, from Atari owned it until 2018. So, and I wonder how Atari feels about having parted with it. But they're probably happier now because the name's even more tarnished in some sense because it's not like they came out and made this a revolutionary new game that's called Alone in the Dark. So they don't have to worry about that outcome.
I just looked at its Metacritic. On PS5, it has a 64, which seems fine. Like kind of on the money to me. Oh, user score 7.8 though. I don't know. What about you, Locke? Are you still interested in playing? Are you curious?
Well, I kind of feel like I have to because I grew up on the first one, and then I remember playing the reboot or the remake. So I'm kind of curious. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a go, but there's no time right now.
Right.
But I'll buy it for sure, and then I'll keep it in my library for a while. Yeah.
Objo Gaming wrote in, "Hello there, sussy fellas. what Colin has found in Immortals of Avium, I have found in Alone in the Dark. A game with middling reviews that I enjoyed way more than everyone else. It's not perfect and definitely has some visual issues and stiff combat, but the exploration and puzzle solving was exactly what I was looking for. Brad, what are your thoughts on it, and do the others intend to play this one? Well, we kind of answered that. Yeah, I haven't played Immortals of Avium yet, but I would like to play it. I have it on PC, so I'm curious about it, but that's great. I'm glad people are finding things to like about the game. Because, I always want to root for survival horror games because I love them, so I'm glad some people are enjoying the game, but I don't know. Like, if you're a person who's only played Resident Evil games, especially the remakes, you might not think too highly of it. So just beware.
How long was it? How long did it take you to beat it?
I think one campaign's probably around like 8 hours. One character.
Oh, okay.
First way through. I think maybe the second way through might be a lot faster. I think it shares some puzzles and stuff like that. So you could probably get through it a lot faster. But first playthrough is like 8 hours, I'd say. Probably 7 to 8. Somewhere along then. All right, boys. It's time. Particularly Colin. You've been playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Yeah.
I am so curious what you think about this game. I obviously
hate
love
it.
this game. Yeah, Colin hates it. Colin, talk to me. How far are you? Let the people know. And before we get into it, I'm just going to say early on, I know people are very cautious about spoilers for this game. I am going to let Colin talk about whatever he wants for what he's played. I believe he's pretty early in the game still in the grand scheme of things. So just be warned.
I'm gonna be light on spoilers. I'll let anyone know if I'm gonna say anything crazy.
But just if you're very nervous about spoilers or whatever, I'm just letting you know because some people freak out about it.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. Tread carefully. I think Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is awesome. It's a really, really awesome game. And it has so much going for it. And it's so interesting how it sits. See, again, this is why I was talking about playing Final Fantasy VII Remake and replaying it leading right in. And that seems like a lot, but it's like, damn, dude, you get so much more out of this game when you do that, or at least when you have a really good working knowledge and remembrance of everything that happened in the original game. There's so much love paid attention to that game. But the way I described it on Sacred was the openness of the game. And it's not an open world game, really. It's more like Borderlands or Tales or something where these are like these interconnected places you can backtrack. But you're not going back to old places really, and at least in my experience yet. And in the story of Final Fantasy VII, or at least the middle of Final Fantasy VII, you wouldn't be going back to anything. Anyway, so I'll see how it all plays out from there. But I was saying it almost seems like a meta take, like the game being so wide open is them saying, well, the end of the first disc, the end of the Midgard chapter, the game opens. And so we are really going to go and open this bitch up now. And I really like that. It's a totally different game in a lot of respects than Final Fantasy VII Remake. You would expect a more linear approach to, and I'm not saying the game's linear approach, I'm saying you'd expect a more linear approach from one game to the next, where it's like there's a lot more of one in the next, and then there's a lot of that one in the next one. And of course they share so many things, but it just feels like they, as Dustin and I say on the show, like you didn't have to go this hard. It's actually kind of like the more I play it, the more I'm like, wow, this game's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And the way I would describe it is, played Final Fantasy VII came out when I was in 8th grade, loved it. I loved JRPGs up to that point, but it really turned me into a nerd for the genre in an even greater and different way. And I had my ups and downs with it and kind of remembering it, and then replayed it on PS4, platinumed it there, loved it. And in the interim, of course, Dirge of Cerberus, which wasn't really very, very well regarded, came out, but Crisis Core came out on PSP, which I really loved. And I guess what I'm saying is that like a fictional world exists, and then you start to be interested in the world, and that's kind of where I was, having kind of interacted with some of these different games, and then playing Crisis Core Reunion and Final Fantasy VII Remake back in 2020, and again playing it here. And now, like, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth has made me invested in the world and like care more about the world in a way, because I didn't know the game does such a nice job of indicating a deep history to it, and obviously a corporatocracy and all of these kinds of things that shine through in the original, but not really. Like Barrett coming from Coral or whatever, Corel or whatever it is.
Corel, yeah.
It's like that's known, but not really explored too deeply, right? Like, or
well, I mean, they talk about his past there, but
right, but like
in the original
here, it seems
they flesh it out way more,
right? Like substantially more. That's what I'm saying. Like everything that happened, even the plate falling in the original game, it's like it got a totally different complexion to it in this game, in my opinion. It's not just the literal changes to the story they're making, but just the deeper complexion and texture that everything has, to the point where it's like, wow, this world fucking rules. Like this is a really, this world was always here. And I've always talked about how role-playing games, especially Japanese role-playing games, there's like a suspension of disbelief you have to employ when you play old ones, like when you're playing Dragon Quest or whatever, and it's like, well, you're not really this little man, and you're not having like this real turn-based battle, and the town does have more than 8 people living in it, and it's just, these are representations of everything. But over time, Dragon Quest XI is actually one of the first games that really did this, in my opinion. But Tales games have done it more recently, and this game does it, I think, more than any. Is like, no, this world is completely populated. The world you're seeing is exactly as the world is, in some sense.
Yeah.
And it's, especially Costa del Sol is so incredible, where I was like, this is like awesome. Like I didn't know that you even had this in you. I didn't know that Final Fantasy VII was this good. I didn't know that the characters were this likable. I didn't know anything about, and this is coming from someone who's deeply familiar with Final Fantasy VII. Like you guys, there's that one shot of Costa del Sol where you're walking across a bridge, and it's like the facade. It's a very basic shot of a facade of the hotel. And they recreate that shot as you walk down and I'm like, it's so funny, man. Like this is so, every corner of this game is strange if you're familiar with the subject matter, and engaging in a way that is impossible to describe. Like I think this game is just so interesting, and I'm so intrigued by it. I'm even intrigued by people's interactions, being like, why? Someone had written it earlier in a different context, but I've been seeing this about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, where it's like, why does this game get a pass for doing the Ubisoft checklist thing? And I'm like, because it doesn't. Like your interpretation of these things is one thing, but the way that they intermarry and deploy in the game, and what they mean when you do them, and how they unlock other things, this is not like take it from me, dude. Like I love Far Cry. This is not. And I love what Far Cry does, and I never want it to change. Love it. But this is not that. Just the most literal it gets is like you're climbing a tower and turning it on, which is, I'm surprised, to the people, to detractors' point, maybe a little bit of a literal interpretation of what has gone on in similar games, where it's like the camera is turning around, the map shows you all the things popping up. I'm like, that is a little Western. Yeah. And you could tell that they've been inspired, for better or for worse, by what a lot of games on the other side.
Oh yeah, the director
have done, which is,
said Witcher 3 and Horizon, big time, were inspirations for it.
So now I have so much to say. I don't want to like get too carried away here, but
no, go ahead.
Final Fantasy VII Remake represents a dystopia, in my opinion, right? But Final Fantasy VII Rebirth represents a post-apocalyptic society that I didn't really know existed in this world. Maybe I just don't know the history of Final Fantasy VII enough, but there's like a whole, they're living on top of a society. It's like when the Egyptians apparently found the Sphinx, right? And then they built things around it, and then they ended up just like kind of, if you're a Hancockian, like absorbing it and all that kind of stuff. It's a similar thing. It's like they live on top of things that came before, and it's ruins everywhere, and things are, and it's not depopulated because it's a role-playing game representing its world as best as it can. It's depopulated because no one lives in that world anymore, compared to, or like what could live or thrive on this world, because it's struggling and it's dying. And I just think that that's cool, the way the games can, in my opinion, contrast, where something's wrong. If you only have the view of Final Fantasy VII from Remake, it's dystopian, but not like this, right? When you see the world outside of Midgar, and you see how, in some cases, better it is, but in many cases, way worse than it can even be. Kind of like Pyongyang in North Korea, where everyone tries to keep you there and show you all the sights and how beautiful it is, because if you look at anything else, it could throw you for a loop. And that's my interpretation of it anyway. And then as far as like the characters are concerned, I love what they've done with every character of consequence. Like there's no problems with anything for me. Like I like not once in a while, I actually typically do absorb stories better when there's little tension between the protagonists. Like I want the protagonist to focus on the antagonists. So I want them to be cool with each other. And I always bring up Ratchet and Clank. The original Ratchet and Clank is this example where in the 2016 remake, they really redid the story to make them friends because they weren't. And it made it weird, in my opinion, in the original one. Like they didn't like each other. And it's like, I don't want that tension. I want the tension to exist over here. And Final Fantasy VII Rebirth really nails that, in my opinion. To a frightening degree, in some sense, I'm playing in front of my wife and I'm like, Cloud makes you want to strangle him because it's like, how many women are going to throw this at themselves at this person before, like, it's too much. Right. And it's so funny, but I love it. I love Barrett and Red 13. And, I'm really fond of Yuffie. I think like the whole way they position her in this game, she was always silly and weird, but it's like really well interpreted in this 3D space. She's so believable. Right. And so childish and so whatever. It's really, really cute, So I like that too. And then the antagonists.
Yes.
So Sephiroth is like kind of and I'll say this earnestly, I've never really cared about Sephiroth. I've always been.
You're a Kefka boy.
Team Kefka with Final Fantasy games, but just generally speaking, I'm like, yeah, like long hair and the fucking samurai sword. All right. Like, it's cool. You might even look at like Genova as like the real bad guy in some sense, but which is kind of like Kefka and Gestel and 6 maybe or something like that. So there is that interpretation of it, but Sephiroth aside, who I think is cool and obviously appearing so much more. Although by the point you realize, and the flashback scene in the beginning is like so fucking dope. Like, and you're starting to incorporate like where Sephiroth actually belongs in the main story, which is cool, or where he would belong in the main story in the original story. But the antagonists that I love are all the antagonists around him, specifically, obviously, the Turks, which people would hone in on, and that's awesome. But dude, I love the Shinra executives. Like,
Heidegger, Scarlet,
classic enemy lieutenants. Like when I think of, like, I am obsessive in our role playing game that we're making at Lilymo. Like I am so excited for people to see the lieutenants, like the enemy lieutenants in the game, because they're so fucking, in my opinion, they're so cool. Because I think that's so necessary to have that in that Japanese role-playing game tradition. And like they're all so dope. Even Palmer and stuff, like they're all it's dope. Like they're all there's a scene with Rufus where they're around the conference table and it's just like, this is so, and there's a great shot and they're all there. It's what Dagan always talks about, where it's like every character is like different size, different aura, different, like they all just, it's so cool. Hojo, everyone, I love it. Just love it. And Reeve, of course, who ends up. It's so funny because they show Kate Sith in the original, and you have really in the Final Fantasy VII continuity playing Rebirth, you would still at the point in the game I'm at not even know like what that reference was still.
Right.
Which is so funny, So yeah, there's that. And I just think the way the game's presented really marries linearity and non-linearity very well, in a sense that it never gets overwhelming. You know what? I like open world games, true open world games, but I find them to this point a little exhausting because very few of them are like Fallout or Elder Scrolls, where it's like, I guess you could really do that if you wanted to. Go all the way across the map, like diagonally, all across, and that's cool, but games usually cordon you off and try to keep you limited in places. Far Cry does this, Horizon does this, and all these different things. So it's never what it seems. And I like when games just say, cut the bullshit and say, like, it's not an open world. This is the section of the world you're going to get. And then you're going to get this next section. They're connected. Then you're going to get this next section. They're connected again, like the Borderlands games. Right. And I feel like this is a much more manageable thing for Japanese role-playing games, that a lot of them can learn to stay away from Western role-playing game conventions by just saying, instead of presenting the whole map and tempting people like me, or maybe like you, Brad, like to just like, I'm going to go do it all now because I can, split it up in a more cogent way so that the rewards are very localized, not only in the place you are in the story, but in the territory you're in. And I think the game intermarries all of these things with Chadley and everything, who I don't find nearly as annoying as other people do. I got to be honest.
Lock's upset.
So I love how they present it, and I love just the UI. Like, it's so good. All the little the meters with the dots, and like it's just always adding something, and you're getting more, and the bar is going up, and you're getting the intel, and you're going and talking to Chadley and getting new. Like, it all intermarries, and then it stops, and then you move on with the story, and it seems actually much more like a game like this would play out if you were in the moment. In other words, like, you would go to Junon and you wouldn't be like, all right, I'll get back here later. It's like, you're never coming back here if you're in the game. Like, why would you ever come back to this place? Like, you would do everything now. But it stops you from going too far and saying, like, all right, now you're infringing into the next part of the game. It's like, it's goading you along. It's very, very well done in my opinion, like, very well paced and very well executed and very well presented.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, I've said a lot. I have so much more to say, but I've said a lot. So
yeah. When I finished the game, Colin, I was like, this is the best single player Final Fantasy game since like 10, pretty much, like that high quality. And it's been a long time, you know. I mean, I love 16 too. Don't get me wrong. I thought 16 was excellent, but I think this is just like an incredible game, and it's one of the highest rated games so far of the year, if not the highest. So it's good to see people receiving it well. Obviously, as a huge Final Fantasy 7 fan, I'm very pleased with it. But I can't wait for both of you to finish it. Lock, I know you're taking a break from it because you got so much other stuff to do. Yep. But how you feel about what Colin said about it? You agreeing with him pretty much and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't have the connotation with the original, of course. I only know the original from editing all those videos, but I, like we talked about before, I never played the original. And Colin, I always bring up the point that you bring up, that you have to play the original to really appreciate Remake and Rebirth as well, which I completely agree with. So for me, it's a little bit different, but I replayed Remake a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago, and I absolutely adored it. I loved Remake. And when I completed Remake, I jumped right into Rebirth. Like, I completed it that night and could start Rebirth right away. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you guys have to say. Even though this game is not made for someone like me, I think it's majestic. It's phenomenal. It probably resonates way more with people like you two, who have such a deep affinity with the series and with the original. So for people like me to say something that glowing as well should mean that it really is that great. Yeah. I think. No, I think the one thing maybe that I slightly disagree with is the open world. Not that I have anything against it. I think they're doing it wonderfully, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Or when I was still playing it, I'll get back to it. But what you said about that little checkbox thing at the top, right? In the first area, which I completed, like the grasslands, like the Western gamer in me couldn't continue until I completed everything. And near the end, there was nothing. Like, I completed it. Okay. And do I get a reward? Do I get something special? And there's really not.
Yeah, I think you get like a trophy, right? You know, and that's it.
You get a trophy.
Yeah.
You lock a lot of stuff on the way for doing all of it, though.
Yeah.
Like, you can do the summon stuff, and you get the intel about the region, which I think is actually really cool learning about the region. But yeah.
I don't have a problem with it. It's just that it doesn't differentiate itself enough from Western games to me in that regard, in that open world regard. But again, I get that it does that way for you guys because you have such affinity with the game, and you probably recognize locations and characters from the older game, which I don't have.
Yeah.
So for instance, when I run into those 3 bandits in the grasslands for the 4th time or for the 3rd time, I'm not like, oh, here they are again. I'm like, oh, here we go again. But for you guys, it's probably, I don't know if those 3 were in the original.
Not. I think like they were like normal enemies in the game, but not like the role they have now.
Okay. Well, I like encountering them multiple times, but like the last time I did that, there wasn't like a big climax, and that's what I mean in the open world.
Done
like
yet.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's true.
But I would say all the side quests have a payoff.
Okay, that's cool.
Like the
cool.
story side quests, at least.
Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. That's something to look forward to. But I completely agree towards the characters too, even though I have no affinity for them. from the previous game or from the original. I think they're wonderfully written. It's obvious that people have like a preference for one of the two girls. Like I think most people pick Tifa or think Tifa is.
We're
gonna
get into that. We're gonna get into it. Fear not.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay,
Shut up.
But no, yeah. So I completely agree. Let's put it that way then.
Cool. Yeah, I'm so pleased you're enjoying it, Colin. I cannot wait to talk to you about it when you finish it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna read a question, but
yeah, go ahead, please.
This is from the Ted Woosley translation. How you stinking guys? My question is for Colin. As someone who typically approaches games from a completionist standpoint, how are you finding the open world in Rebirth and its various activities? I tried to do absolutely everything in the game and I loved it for the most part, but sometime after the 85-hour mark, burnout finally kicked in and I made a beeline for the end game, leaving about a region and a half worth of activities unfinished. Maybe I'll go back to play them eventually, but for now, I am more than satisfied with my playthrough. Cheers, and please give that chicken some rest.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I described it already, but I also don't have the experience he has where I don't know, maybe I'll burn out too, but I just feel like everything is kind of manageable. And since it's just broken up in a way where you don't have to, even if you are a completionist and you're really tethered to that game style, you don't have to like put yourself out too much. It's not like you have a few hours of work in front of you in every territory, in my opinion. Like I unless I'm missing something wildly, like I'm not seeing like how crazy it is. It's just a lot of legwork, you know?
Yeah.
And then you, like you said, you go back and you make the summons weaker and you go fight them and you do the side quests for people as they pop up and you play cards and all of them, do the mini games and all that kind of stuff. So
do you like Queen's Blood?
Yeah, I've done every one that I've
Excellent.
played every game that I've encountered so far. Yeah.
Very good. It has a narrative tag to it.
There is it. It's cool. Like the game is, it's not easy to break. It's just that there's a technique to the game that's somewhat replicable. It's not foolproof, but it's the same. You just play in a certain way to occupy the most squares. It's not even about the cards you deploy in the beginning. It's just about occupying space. So once you realize that, like I was having not a hard time, but I was not really quite understanding what I was doing, even if I was winning. And then that finally just snapped in me and I was like, oh yeah. And you go from there. Yeah. I like that. I like Fort Condor less.
Oh, I love Fort Condor.
But it's the thing about what I don't like about Fort Condor specifically is the design and having a timer.
Oh,
because
got it.
It's like, I'm winning this battle. Like, why do I have to do it in this certain amount of time? Like, I am easily winning this battle, but I'm not attacking the fortress in the amount of time. So it's over and you have to be so aggressive. I think that they put the timer in specifically for people that don't have patience, of course, but because the game does probably become trivially easy if you just take your time. So there's but like the enemy doesn't seem to be in the same rush you have to be. So they did add in an update. I noticed a difficulty setting. I don't know if you noticed that. And on the very last one I did, I dropped the difficulty for it because I was like, I did it twice and failed because I ran out of time where I'm like, I'm winning, dude. Like I am winning. I'm not, this is bullshit. And then I was just like, fine. I just did it there. So that was interesting.
Are you enjoying the story tied with, particularly a character tied with Fort Condor?
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah. It's a, again, this is an example of it just not having to be this deep and them kind of going above and beyond over and over again. Like I haven't even gotten the gold saucer yet, obviously, and I'm sure it gets fucking crazy there. Although I'm sure a lot of the mini games I've encountered are just replicated there as well. But the mini games that I've encountered so far, I've beaten all of them. The only one that I've skipped is the gym specifically. So I'm like, this is just so
brutal.
It's just annoying. Like I'm not crazy about it. And nothing they were offering for prizes was like really worth it for me. But everywhere else, like the gun mini game, and I love the Red 13 like ball, like the fucking
the soccer game.
Yeah, the soccer game. It's kind of cool. Awesome. And they really make that more and more dynamic and make it more and more difficult, which is neat. So yeah, I've actually really just enjoyed. I'm trying to play it as organically as possible, like just doing everything as it becomes available, taking my time with it, talking to people in the game that I encounter, doing, the pictures for the photographer and whatever the case. It's just, I'm really digging it. And, audio perspective, the VO is awesome, but dude, the music is fucking killer in this
God
game.
tier.
Yeah.
God
Yeah.
tier. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
And I feel like I'm hearing a couple of new tracks that don't seem to even be inspired by anything at all. There was like this one game, there was this one song right before the section I'm at now where I'm like, I don't think the song's in the original game, and this is a fucking banger. Like,
Yeah, there's some bangers. Did you do the salmon quest, the dog one?
Yeah.
Bow wow wow. Yeah, that song rules, dude.
And yeah, there's all of the funny. There's a bunch of the songs too at Kyrie's thing, like when there's just a lot of work and a lot of thought put into everything in this game. I will say I've softened on this a little bit in the open world, but the game does look like a PS4 game. It looks like a pretty PS4 game. I assume it looks a lot better if you play it at 30 frames, but
it does. It looks.
But
really
I'm playing
good at 30
the
frames.
so there was only 2 modes when it came out, but I waited long enough serendipitously where it there was a third mode, which was like sharpness mode, where it's like a sharper picture at 60 frames.
I think playing soft mode actually.
Yeah, so that was like the original soft mode or whatever, and I played it in sharper mode.
I think sharp was the original.
Perhaps. Oh, sharp was the original. Oh, okay.
Well, I'm not sure, but soft I've heard is the best one. That's what I played.
Oh, that would make sense. That would make sense from a frame rate perspective. But but to me, the sharp, like whatever the interstitial one,
whatever works for you, it's fine.
Looks good to me anyway. But it doesn't look like a modern expensive game by any stretch of the imagination. And I was showing Micah like certain things where I'm like, it's a little disappointing because when we look at a game like Starfield or something and everyone's like, oh, you have to be able to interact with everything. That's why the game is like it is. And so it has to like be locked in these certain graphical parameters and frame rate parameters. And I'm like, there's a lot of interactivity that doesn't need to be in this game. And I'm not even talking about playing with people. It's just like I'm running through a town and suddenly I'm like blasting through boxes and crates and plants flying everywhere. I'm like, why? Like there are just little decisions like that. I'm like, there's no reason for me to be able to move anything in the environment. It's okay if you just locked everything down. So little things like that, maybe like they didn't need to do, and that would have helped improve the technical situation in some sense, but I doubt it. But when I'm like outside of Costa del Sol, and this was the first time I've like been out in the world and been like, holy shit, this game is really pretty. You're climbing up this like mountainous path and you can see where you've come from, and it's not high res or anything. It just looks really good. And so the game has a pretty aesthetic. The character models are obviously, as I noted, it's like the Seinfeld episode of when Jerry dates the woman who looks different depending on the light. And that's like what the characters look like depending on where you.
Sure.
If you're in a cutscene, everything looks awesome. You're in like some sort of more tailored real-time scene, it looks good. If you are in some sort of like shitty side quest scene that the B team did, it looks like Jerry's girlfriend under the light, right? So there's that as well. And then I'm trying to read my notes here, see if there's anything else. Just the narrative of corporatism and like powerful corporations, and how funny it is to me that Final Fantasy VII story was a poignant narrative on the way we treat our planet and energy sources and all of the rest. And it was in the mid 90s and it's still true today,
right?
About all of the same targets and their inability to let go of their position, their dominance, their money, power, and all of those kinds of things. And how this oil company, basically, in Shinra Electric Power Company, this analog to it, is basically running out of oil and then trying to find out how they can exploit something even worse to maintain their levers of power, both literally and figuratively. And I just think it's a kind of a deep, it's a deep story. I mean, you're playing as terrorists, but it doesn't feel like it. And I know a lot of that is because of the way the game's portrayed, but it's also because like these people are evil.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is manipulative and they're obsessive with this specific thing. And there actually is a major change to the story. I don't want to talk about it here with Rufus at that board meeting.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because that's not what happened. That's not what he says in the original. And that's the other thing too, is just the sci-fi versus modernity and kind of taking this like this somewhat modern world with its 50s cars or whatever, and then giving it this real sci-fi feel of manipulating its story. And that's what you were saying, Locke. Like there's just no understanding the story unless you are familiar. You don't have to necessarily play it, but you need to know what happened in the original one. And this game more than the first one, it's like, you're going to like it, especially if you played the first remake, but you're still not understanding it like at the level that you're supposed to be understanding it, unless you understand what happened in the original game, you know, and where things really deviate to the point of like, I don't even want to say it. It's like the things that happen and the people that pop up. It's like, this is not even possible in the original. Like, how are you supposed to know that unless you played it? You know, like,
right.
So yeah, it's really, really wonderful. I'm super. I love the way they represented, and this isn't really a spoiler because it's in the beginning. Well, maybe it is, but
I told him at the beginning.
Yeah, it's like with the Nibelheim flashback. I just thought it was really well done. The way it fleshed out Cloud's and Tifa's relationship in some interesting way, I thought was cool. And seeing their version of Sephiroth's obsession, I always love that scene in the original game when he's in the basement and he's just reading the books and time's passing and like the books are like moving around and stacking, and I love the way they did that in this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so good about how like Cloud is with him when he learns the truth, basically. Right. And like, and sees his obsession born and can't forget that moment. And it's, oh my God, it's expertly done. So yeah, shout out to these guys. I mean, Square Enix is just killing it.
They're crushing it with Final Fantasy right now.
Yeah. And Final Fantasy 16 special for sure, but I think this is the better game.
I do too. Yeah. I think it's a better game. Yeah. Just Kyle 92 wrote in. Hello, you dripping in moist sussies with blisters and sores. Good Lord. I've been playing Rebirth, and I want to know, who is Colin's waifu so far? Please don't say Yuffie. Thanks for the consistent content, and leave George Washington alone.
Yeah. Yuffie would be legal in some states probably, but that's not where my mind wanders.
Yeah. Is that the age in Japan?
Japan, 16? I think it's 13, wasn't it? Oh, is it 16?
Consent? Holy shit.
I think, I'm pretty sure it wasn't until 20 years ago that there was a legal age in Japan, but I could be wrong about that. And then I think they made it 13. I could be wrong about that.
I have no idea.
If it's not 13 now, it certainly was in the recent past.
Okay.
Just because I remember that coming up at IGN or something like that. I don't remember in what context.
Whoa.
Well, like just constant conversations about Japan over there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, all the weird. Well, it is weird. I mean, from my perspective, that is weird. That's like fucking way too disgustingly young. But you don't want to like judge people's cultures, I guess. But there are certain things I'm happy to judge you about.
Sure.
You don't need to be with a 13-year-old girl. You don't need to be with a 16-year-old girl, even if she's Yuffie. You don't need to be with an 18-year-old girl.
She's Yuffie.
If you're older than like 20 or 21, you know, unless you're really testing the bounds of legality and reason in some sense. So keep it real out there, please. As far as the waifu is concerned, I'm just Team Jessie all the way. My eye doesn't wander, you know.
Team Jessie all the way.
It's interesting.
She's great.
The game seems to be pitching one of them to me more than the other. I don't mind that. I think the game needs to do what it needs to do, but in some sense, I don't want to spoil the game. It's weird. The love triangle is actually pretty intense in my opinion. Like, Aerith seems to be very aggressive in perpetuating the love triangle, almost as like a backhanded thing to Tifa, even if they're like friends. They have this friendship, obviously, but Jessie will always have my heart.
Always be your girl. Yeah, always be your girl.
She was so easily the obvious choice. Like it's such a bummer, you know. That night when she offers to like go, you know, that he like walks her home and stuff, I was like, that could have gone a different way for Cloud.
It does, yeah. Lock, who's your girl? Was it Tifa for you? I forgot.
No.
Was it Jessie?
It was in remake. It was Jessie, yeah. But in here, it's Aerith. Normally, I don't really like the sweet girls in real life or in video games. Whoa. But there's just so. Is that too much?
No, sorry. Just learning your type.
But she is so endearing. She's just so. The voice actress. I'm playing it in English, and I guess you guys are too.
Yeah.
But I think the voice actress does such a great job. She's so endearing. She's so lovable. Like there's hardly anything you want her to like you as a character. I mean.
Yeah, that's part of the fun of the game, because everyone has something great to offer.
There's something. It's so interesting to me because Aerith is like. I don't know that I'm not. I understand. Like I don't find Cloud's relationship with her, and it seems almost forced in some way, right? Like Tifa's is more natural because they have a past, and the past is powerful.
The past is powerful.
But I love the wild card. You know, I'm hoping for better things for you know. Not that these are bad choices; these are great choices, but I'm hoping for better things yet for Cloud. Yeah,
sure. James Arnold wrote in, "What's up, Bussy Summoners? I recently had to bite my tongue before some nerd rage blew up on my friends. While out at a bar, a Rebirth commercial was on the TV. A friend of mine then said, 'How can people still play Final Fantasy? Hasn't that Sephiroth guy been the villain for the last 20 years?' I looked at him and my blood boiled for a second. I kept my cool. But I told him it's a remake of 7. Others then joined the conversation and joined him in the hating, claiming no one wants new things, only remakes. I couldn't believe the irony, as these friends have almost exclusively played WoW for the past 20 years. Was I wrong to have my jimmies rustled? Or would this annoy you gents like it has me? Sorry for the long story. Thanks for all you guys do." James, your friends are damn fools. Damn, especially if they're playing WoW still, dude. Get real, man. Sorry, Lock. I mean, I played WoW for...
No problem.
Dragonflight was the first expansion I never finished. So I played WoW for a very long time. And come on, man. You guys are complaining about Sephiroth, dude? When you're playing WoW? That story they've done in WoW? Jesus. The Jailer? Come on, guys. Get real.
Talking to me now? Or are you
I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to this guy's chucklehead friends, dude. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about. There are a lot of remakes and remasters, obviously, but there's a lot of new fucking games out there. People just don't look, man. There's so many games out there, dude. If your friends are just playing WoW, then they probably don't really know anything about gaming that much. That's all they play. Locke, what do you think? As a WoW defender.
Well, I'm not really a WoW defender.
WoW defender.
Okay, I'm a huge WoW defender.
Blizzard defender.
Oh no! Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. No, but I mean, I guess if you aren't into games, then yeah, how the hell should you know that Sephiroth isn't in every game? I mean, it's just ignorance. Like they don't know anything about the subject, so that wouldn't make me angry if that happened to me. But I mean, I guess if he's passionate about it, yeah, that makes sense. WoW also has a really interesting story, though, that people don't really talk about anymore. Like the new update, like I don't remember what it's called.
Was it Season of Discovery? Oh, War Within, you mean?
The War Within, yeah. That trailer that they showed is amazing. If you follow the backstory, so WoW also has some pretty cool stories. But yeah, of course, it's not on the same level. So yeah, what's the question really? Do I think his friends are right to make fun of Final Fantasy? Is that
you can make fun of it, yeah.
Well,
I would say, James, if I was you, I would just make fun of WoW at them because they got no room to talk.
I wouldn't do that, but yeah, I get it. I get the sentiment. Because then you're basically doing the same thing, and that's never good. But yeah, he should convince them to play it like you did with me.
Yeah,
that would be the way to solve it peacefully.
Yeah, I mean, I love WoW, but I'm not into it right now. I want to love WoW the most. I've had great memories of that game. But if your friends play on Alliance, then they have no hope. So, Locke, please don't tell me you play on Alliance.
You're really making friends with me today.
Are you Alliance scum?
I am Alliance scum.
You are fucking Alliance scum, dude. God damn you, Locke. Jesus.
Well, what do you play?
Horde.
Yeah, of course, Horde. But what do you
Undead
play?
and Orc, always.
All right. I'll delete you after Discord after.
Oh, come on, dude. You
go
playing fucking Drain Eyes? Jesus.
No.
Night Elf scum.
Just a regular old human male.
No, Locke, that is the most offensive thing you could play in a fantasy game.
That's my character I made when WoW released, and I'm sticking with it. Like,
how could you pick a human over a dwarf, man?
Well, because when the game released, I just picked that character, and I was like, oh, okay, well, this is my character now, and here we are, 20 years later, and yeah. That's just how it goes.
Sorry, Colin.
I don't mind.
I have to deal with this.
It doesn't always have to be about me.
Just Colin's like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah, I can't do it with it. I played 0 seconds of that game. So.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. WoW's great. All right. It's time for Sort It Out, boys. In this segment, we just talk about something that's bothering us in the game industry. Game, company, person, whatever. Someone needs some fucking sorting that shit out.
Yeah.
Let's start with you, Colin. Do you have one?
Yeah.
It's okay if you don't.
No, I do actually. It's what's going on with Embracer. Gotta really sort this out. I saw 2 stories this week or over the last week or so that really annoyed the shit out of me, actually. The first was Embracer. This is from Video Games Chronicle. Embracer CEO says it's too early, in quotes, to start buying studios again. And they say, quote, on Friday, the company confirmed the sale of Borderlands developer Gearbox to Take-Two, blah, 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 blah. Surprisingly, on the day of the restructuring was completed, CEO Lars Wingford said it was asked in an interview call whether Embracer was ready to start acquiring studios again, to which he replied it was too early to say. And he said, quote, looking to do more mergers and acquisitions deals, I think it's way too early to start talking about restarting the M&A engines again. Now we are in the late phases of the consideration of the future of the group, and that's our highest focus and priority, how we set ourselves up and structure ourselves and utilize our assets we have within the group and have them work together, and how we leverage them better, working together, utilizing different functions. I think that's our focus right now, to increase profitability and cash flow generation by simply making better products and games. So appreciate the answer, but it's clownish that he would even be asked this after they laid off more than 1,000 people and ended up divesting from many of their valuable assets. But then I saw this thing that even sent me over the edge even more, and this was on gamesindustry.biz, and it's called Saber's Matthew Karch. So Saber Interactive was spun off from Embracer, and it says, don't bet against Embracer. And he says this thing at the end. He says, yeah, here it is. This annoyed the shit out of me so badly. Let's see, quote. And he talked about the deal with Savvy Games Group falling through, which was the Saudi group that was going to infuse money. So he says, quote, it is true that when you gather so many assets so quickly, you have to take a deep breath and take stock of what you have. And I also think that when the markets are supporting this manic kind of growth and you're in a situation where you could take advantage of that, it's hard not to leverage that. It's hard not to leverage a strong share price to go out and buy assets. I blame being a publicly traded company for some of the woes that Embracer has. And I blame the fact that people are trying to take advantage of other people's misery through shorting the stock as something that has resulted in depressing share price for the company and thus some of the layoffs. But I wouldn't bet against Lars right now. He's really on top of it. I haven't heard him this confident in a long time, and I think that they've made the company small enough, still big, but small enough that it's manageable. They have some great stuff that I know of in the works that's unannounced that I think people are going to love, so I'm bullish on them. I love them, and it was a bittersweet thing for me to go, but it happens. I think they're a great company, and I think they're really, really great people. I just feel badly that the last year has been so stressful. It's been stressful for me, too. I'm not even entirely sure how this Lars Wingsford, has a job. I assume it's because he owns like a material amount of the company, perhaps, and obviously has board supporters and stuff like that. But
sure.
Embracer needs to sort it out.
Yep.
They were dead ass wrong. It was obvious that they were dead ass wrong. And all you need to do is listen to Sacred Symbols when I criticized them expanding over and over and over again, saying it was unsustainable and that this was going to end badly. Yeah, I did say it.
Called it early.
Yeah, from the very beginning. I'm like, this just doesn't make any sense. You can't. Their big mistake was getting into AAA gaming. If they just focused on AA games and stayed in that space, which is what they wanted to do, they were just spending too much money. It's like when Crystal Dynamics became available, that was not in their plan. It wasn't in their plan to own Tomb Raider. It wasn't in their plan to own Lord of the Rings. It wasn't in their plan to own any of these things. And they got too chaotic. And that where does the buck stop? You're blaming it on the shareholders? That's so fucking weird. You know, when someone like me, a chucklehead pothead in my fucking bedroom, not in my bedroom really, but in my house, I should be in my bedroom. It would be much more comfortable. But I was able to say, like, this doesn't make any sense. You're gonna create too many games. They're all gonna compete with each other. You can't possibly find windows to release all these games. There is a maximal size that a game publisher can be, I think, and they are still way. I don't think the bloodletting's anywhere close to them. That's why I was asking about Pieces and THQ Nordic, which they own. It's like, what is gonna? So Alone in the Dark, that's a Embracer game. Did that bomb?
Right.
Because that's just another problem for them. You know. So yeah, those guys are it's just chucklehead shit over there. And I just don't understand that strong showing of support for an executive that overexpanded your company and leveraged it to the point where you needed to borrow all of that money and the infusion never came. And so it all collapsed because that one infusion of capital didn't come. How did you get to that point? That's fucking crazy.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah.
It's fucking embarrassing. Lock, what about you?
Well, I have written down here everyone for
Nice.
sorted out, but there's a reason for that, because the past week I just wanted 1 week without Twitter, so I went a week without Twitter, and then I turned it on, I think 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and this whole Gamergate 2 stuff started popping up, which is very confusing to me because I wasn't there from the start, I guess. But the way I understand it is that this Grumps guy, like a former WoW
Blizzard,
developer. Yeah, Blizzard, guy who worked for Blizzard, found like a couple of racist community or tweets from community managers from different gaming companies, and now everyone's jumping at each other. If I understand it correctly, that's
part of it.
That's sort of that's part of what it's about. What my sorted out is for everyone involved on either side with that, because I read those tweets that he showed to people on his Twitter of like the racist community managers, and I agree they were blatantly racist. You can also be racist towards white people. Racism is racism. So I think he has a point there, but I also think the other people have a point when they're saying that he's rallying way too hard and he's rallying everybody up for a cause that's not really a cause. Like, I don't really get the end goal here. Like, people want journalists to go away or something. I don't really get what the objective is or what the purpose of everything is. So it would be nice if people learned the lesson from the first Gamergate, and this time maybe organize a dialogue or something, or actually talk with each other instead of having this weird standstill where everybody hates each other for the next decade for no reason whatsoever.
Sure,
Especially not now. Now that games media, traditional games media, is sort of dying and getting replaced by you guys, essentially. It would be good for them, I think, to recognize the problem and maybe start a discussion and then start talking with people about why and how, or why people don't trust games media anymore, and then delve into it instead of immediately accusing everyone of the most heinous shit. I didn't get it 10 years ago, and I still don't get it now, or even less now, the older I get. Why people in the games industry are so volatile towards each other. Like, they're all people, so it seems to me like they can talk still, or they can debate, if you want to call it that. Just communicate with each other.
Interesting. Yeah. If you're more curious about that subject, Colin and some of the boys did a Sacred Symbols Plus talking all about all this Sweet Baby Ink stuff and all that. I haven't listened to it, but yeah, you guys talked for a while on it, so
yeah, we did 3 hours on it and tried to bring balance to it. We had my friend Jason Polanski from Atari on. He's the producer over there, along with Gene. From a journalistic point of view, we had Hogan from a legal and kind of economic point of view, just to kind of talk about like this moment, because this is what I said on it, is like, I think there's a lot of truth to the message in some sense. I just think that the messengers are bad messengers, and the parameters of what we're talking about are getting too broad and unorganized and disorganized. If we want to have this like industry wide conversation about this, that, and the other thing, like, yeah, why are community managers so hostile to their communities? How can you say you have no power in an industry when not only are you the community manager of a AAA studio, but you're able to be racist and get away with it? Like, who has the power in that situation exactly? Like, who's at the deficit of power in that situation? Certainly not you. If you're able to do that, you know, you would not be able to say the things that person said. And
I would, but I wouldn't be here anymore.
Right. Well, so I get that. Like, I see that stuff and I'm like, yeah, it's obvious. Like, it's obvious that there's a complete disconnect between many of the people that make games and the people that buy and consume games. That one side is completely, or not completely, but mostly in political thrall and economic thrall and in the systemic thrall of this very specific set of ideologies. And people want to kind of see through that and get through that and understand that. And I totally get it. But I think that Grums guy and others are just not good messengers. Like, it's not because he doesn't have the right to, I don't know him from a hole in the wall, but it's not that he doesn't have the right to say what he wants. I just read things that he says on Twitter and I'm like, I don't really know what you're even talking about half the time. It seems like you don't even understand what you're talking about half the time. And I had noted this on Sacred, I think, or maybe it was on that episode where I was like, the thing that turned me off from him is actually has nothing to really do with the situation, which was he's like earnestly been saying and tweeting, I've been seeing it, stuff about how Helldivers 2 is like decidedly anti-political. And it's like, and I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like if you, from any perspective, that's not true. And if you really feel that way, you probably shouldn't be analyzing media because I don't know what you're talking about. And it makes, when I see kind of things like that said in other similar things and kind of the directions he's going in some ways, I'm like, yeah, I just don't really believe you. And I think it's not that you're just the wrong messenger. Like you're just not, it's not about you. You're irrelevant. Right. And I'm not saying you're irrelevant because of who you are or what you've done. I was like, you are irrelevant to the conversation. It shouldn't be about you and what you have to say. It should be about the greater audience of people that there are certainly better people to fight this fight. I don't want to fight this fight. It's not going to be me. I have no problem being a culture warrior in some way, but I'm not going to be at the forefront fighting this fight because I don't even really believe in all of it. So I'm certainly not going to be your great evangelist, but you can do better.
Right.
And so that's my problem. Yeah.
Is it weird for you that you're on the other side now then? Because last time when this happened, you were like a journalist, right? Like you were. Yeah. How is it for you? Because you agree with some points that he brought up. So how do you experience it this time?
Well, it's similar in the sense that I've long said that the first time it happened, I was still at IGN, and I remember my whole advice was like to just ignore it. And that didn't obviously work out very well. I think it would have been good advice had different things fell out of our control. So like, the Gamers Are Dead article and all these things that like just exacerbated it. But I think probably ignoring it and hoping it would just go away would be a good move, just because it was unclear in the beginning how organic it was and how many people were actually interested in it. But I've long said, because of my position, uniquely, I say this, is that I get why people think that there are conflicts of interest and funny business going on. Like, it sure looks like it. Like, the thing I say to people though is, having experienced as senior editor of the biggest gaming website in the world, really at its peak, before it became like an SEO machine and writing getting most of the traffic from strategy guides and all of that, is like, I never saw anything untoward happen. Like, really didn't. I had a couple weird situations just with like being frustrated about things I could say about games, or like a specific score I can give a game because people didn't feel like my language reflected the score. Like, I had disagreements behind the scenes, but it was never about like the product. It was about the way people interpreted the things.
It was like
I
your
said.
editor or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It was never. I should be clear about that.
Everyone's had those talks. Like, I had those talks.
So like, and that pissed me off, and still pisses me off because it's like, it's my review. I want to give it a certain score. Right. Specifically, it was about Madden on Vita, if people are curious. It was Madden on Vita, or it was maybe Madden on 3DS, one of those. And it had like last year's schedule and like all sorts of weird shit. And they were like, it doesn't really matter. Like, why are you scoring it so low for that? I'm like, it matters so much. What are you saying? Like, we had this big discourse about it. And so nonetheless, like, that's about as bad as it got. And that was internal. I brought up the story many times. You might remember this, Brad. I don't know if were you in the industry when Dead Space came out? I don't know if you were around at that point.
What year was that? I don't think so.
2008 or 9, something like that.
No, that was before me.
So, oh no, you know what? I'm sorry. It wasn't Dead Space. It was Dante's Inferno.
Oh,
that EA game. So that was a couple years later.
Yeah.
EA had this, it was clever, but they just didn't think it through. They had this clever kind of PR campaign where they were going to take advantage of the 7 sins. So like send you to like this ornate dinner. And one of the things was they sent us a check, like a literal check for money. I think it was $666.66 or something like that. Yeah. But like, you could go cash it. We did a video on it and we're like, whoa, like this, you're making our problem so much worse by doing this, even though it is clever. It's funny, but it's not a good look. And I remember people being mad when I reviewed Mass Effect 3. So that was 2012, I think. And EA sponsored the review. And and I was like, I get why you think this looks bad. It does look bad, but you have to understand, I didn't know. Like, I really didn't know that was going to happen. And so I get people's interpretations of it. So that's a long-winded way of me saying, I look at it much the same way, where I'm like, I get it. I know why you think it looks shady. That's why I've as I've gotten older, and I do this from a place of security in some sense because I don't need that access and all of that. But it's like, that's why it's one of the things that feeds, like, we don't want access. We don't want early access to games. We don't want preview events and all those kinds of things. Let's remove as much from the math equation as humanly possible so that you don't think anything weird's going on. We don't take endemic advertising. You have any idea how much money we've turned down from hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years? From in cumulative amounts of money we could have made by just having games sponsor the show. And I'm like, no, like, I know what it is to be sponsored by something and it not mattering, but I also know that on the other side, it looks like it doesn't really matter anyway. It's the same thing with when I used to get exclusive reviews at IGN all the time.
Right.
And what we would do is we would not tell them the score, but we would basically say, like, we wouldn't be asking you this if we didn't like the game. And if we get 3 days early access, like 3 days early embargo, we'll put the review on the front page kind of thing.
Interesting.
But that was like the normal course of business. It's how Game Informer fucking gets its covers. It's not really any different. So that's like the level I'm talking about. And so with everything that's going on now, the way I look at it now is that, like, my old cast, right? Like the journalist cast, right? Is dead. It doesn't even exist anymore. Like, any of the people you see talking about this now are irrelevant as far as, like, from the journalist side. There's no one left, right? And that's why I think that people are underestimating this moment, because people are like, oh, this is like a worse version of that. I'm like, no, it's not. In fact, it's like a much more undercover and probably much more prolific in numbers version of that. When you see, I explain to people that, like, the reason Gamergate became a thing is because, like, NPR picked it up and people started talking about it in the mainstream, and it kind of self-reflected itself. But this time it's very much an industry problem, but you have, like, outcomes like a Steam group with 300,000 people in it. It's like, you're really going to pretend that that's nothing. That's okay. We'll see. Like, we'll see when these games start coming out. And, like, I'm especially interested with Compulsion's game because it's funny that some of the racist shit that woman said was about me. Like, a lot of that stuff's clipped out, but it is about me.
Whoa.
And, like, revolving around situations with me. And at the time, I put all of her tweets on the Internet Archive. And so they're all still there, and there is nothing that stupid asshole is going to be able to do about at least the evidence existing of her sheer racism. And will Compulsion see, this is where the rubber hits the road for me, is like, okay, let's just say that, like, all the Sweet Baby Inc. unproven connections, like, ignore all of that. I find the Sweet Baby Inc. thing to be a bit of a scapegoat situation anyway. But, like, you have a situation like this where it's like, this is racist. She said these racist things. Will there be accountability for this? If not, I never want to hear about the differential in power between people in this industry ever again, unless it's that you have the power.
Right.
Because very similar to, and I've said this before, it's like, gay pride flags at some point stopped representing this counterculture thing and started representing the culture, right? And therefore became redundant. There's no reason to show them anymore, because now it's like showing an American flag. It's like, okay, we get it. Like, you've colonized this place and you won, and that's great. But, like, if you have this sort of outlying perception of, I can be racist, but you can't, and then you don't pay the price for that, that's an intolerable imbalance. And I don't think that, like, I seriously don't think Compulsion's going to get away with that. Like, at least in some respect, from some angle of the games industry, like, she should be fired. She should lose her job. She should be cast out. If anyone said that stuff about anyone of any other race, it would have been over for them. Over.
Yeah, immediately.
And that's just that's just sheer hypocrisy. These people have all of the power. That's the biggest irony. They have the power, the systemic power, the institutional power. Yeah. We don't. Crazy We're on stuff. Fucking Zencaster right now. We're recording remote podcasts. Yeah. But, like, we're looked at as like, oh, you're straight white men. You have all the power. It's like, well, that's interesting, because if we said these two same things, one of us would get in trouble and one of us apparently doesn't.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy.
And the crazier thing about that woman too, and I noted this on the show, I went through her LinkedIn, and it's like, this woman hasn't done dick. Like, she's done all these, there's no shame in working an honest job, but she's done all of these outside jobs that have nothing to do with games industry, and then found her way in. So it's not like she's like some it's not like some controversial. It's not like Aaron Rodgers on the Jets, right? Where it's like, oh, Aaron Rodgers was anti-vax and Aaron Rodgers lied about this and all that's like, yeah, but Aaron Rodgers is like a Hall of Fame quarterback, so we're gonna go with it. It's like she's like a talentless hack, hasn't done anything. Like, why would you even take the heat for someone like that? You would want to take the heat for someone that was worth it. You know? Anyway, I'm ranting now.
No, I mean, it's very good to hear.
Yeah.
My sort out kind of piggybacks off yours, Colin, with Embracer Group, but mine's more specifically about the Knights of the Old Republic remake. So they got asked about it. IGN asked them about the game. And Saber Interactive CEO Matthew Karch confirmed the company took KOTOR with it during its split from Embracer Group, and the game is still in active development. He says, quote, "It's clear and it's obvious that we were working on this," he said. "It's been in the press numerous times."
It's so passive aggressive.
What I will say is that the game is alive and well. We're dedicated to making sure we exceed consumer expectations. What the fuck's this guy talking about? What do you mean it's been in the press and out there? They have like shown nothing from this fucking game. Nothing. We got that one cinematic teaser like years ago.
Yeah.
And we haven't heard dick about this game. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
Well, he's talking about, I think, like the various leaks that it was still coming, like Sony detached.
Well, how he says this is like saying it's like, yeah, we showed a trailer. We've shown like 4 trailers. It's well known that it exists. It's like, no, dude.
Yeah, they never confirmed it.
You haven't been confirming anything. You haven't talked about this shit at all. It's all been through leaks, man. Yeah. This guy's a fucking maniac.
Yeah, it's I have no hope in that game, but it is what it is.
I hope for Maddie.
Yeah, Matt, it would be nice for Maddie for that game to be nice, but or for to be good, but yeah, no hope.
No hope. We got some write-ins from the listeners here. This is from Forlorn. Sorted out to gaming media. Let's stop blasting average games, claiming they're trash or horrible just because it'll get more views or engagement. I see a pattern in the industry where rather than saying a game is mid or average, they go online blasting it as an abomination. And it's purely speculation on my part to think they're farming the drama for engagement. But what other reason could it be? Or what other reason could this be happening? Suicide Squad isn't a good game. Sorry, Lock. Immortals of Avium is not a good game. Sorry, Colin. But if I put those in, not him. But if we truly want a marketplace full of diverse mix of AA and AAA games, shouldn't we be more open to this? Just an observation. Sorry if I'm coming off ignorant, but I'm generally curious. And Brad, I'm very glad that you're part of the team. I'll start by saying before episode 1, I was not familiar with you, but in such a short time, you've become very welcome part of the team. The fit is perfect. I've watched for years and never ran into Sacred. Sorry, Colin. Hopefully, y'all have a great week.
It's okay.
Definitely some websites take advantage of game drama, of course. They definitely want engagement farming. Absolutely. A lot of the most heinous shit I see is just from normal people, though, on Twitter. Fanboys, I guess, you know? That's where I see most of the shit. Of course, there's games that come around that people will pick on, like Starfield. Suicide Squad definitely got picked on. But I don't know. I think some games, I think a lot of his perception on reviews, people think if a game is not an 8 or higher, it's fucking garbage a lot of the times. And it's like, no, man, the full scale, man. You got to use the full scale. In my opinion, a 7 is a good game, dude. It's good. Like, I would say like a 6 is like decent or whatever.
Well, I mean, that is literally the scale at IGN. Exactly. And people like 6 is okay. 7 was good. You know, and
it's like
you'd give something a 7 and be like, oh my God, you guys hate it. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know how else I can possibly communicate to you.
Yeah.
That this
As
is
someone
good.
who scored stuff too, it's like I dealt with that same shit, dude. It's just like people, I mean, writing reviews with scores, I get it. As someone who did do it, because people like scores, they want to know the number. But unfortunately, a lot of it does get lost, the full review, because a lot of people just look at numbers and that's it. So there's more to the review usually than that. But yeah, I don't know. Like people dogpile on shit all the time in games. It sucks, but it is what it is. But you shouldn't let that stop you from playing the game if you're interested in it. All right, this is from Zach Cool Number. I want to throw a sword out to Warner Brothers in general. They seem to be fumbling all their IP and refuse to learn the right lessons for anything they do, such as the success of Hogwarts Legacy or the failure of Suicide Squad. Yeah, Warner Brothers games fucking depressing, dude. I don't know what the hell they're doing over there. They are out of their mind. And Mortal Kombat was a fucking disaster post-launch.
Yep.
So they got to definitely sort that shit out. One more. This is from Nevitz. Sort it out, Sega/Sonic team. I don't know who's in charge of these costume DLC skins for recent Sonic games, but it needs to be sorted out. Sonic Frontiers had a skin of a VTuber, but only for Japan. Then, for Sonic Superstars, there was a cel-shaded skin that was very cool and widely available worldwide except for the United States. We had to use a rewards program from Kroger to buy the skin. And now there's an Amy skin exclusively for the US through IHOP's reward program. What the hell is going on? Just let me buy the skins. Sort that shit out. Dude, that is fucking heinous.
That's awesome.
Kroger reward program?
That's
and IHOP?
great. I love it.
That is great, dude. Sonic is the only one that can get away with that shit. Maybe Nintendo could get away with it too. That is fucking wild. All right, guys, let's do the exact opposite. Keep it up. Stuff we're pleased with in the industry. Who's killing it? Who's doing well? Colin, let's start with you again.
Well, I have a non-industry answer quickly, which is keep it up, sure. Mathematics. It's kind of amazing. We're recording this on the day of the eclipse, and it's just kind of amazing to me that there are these rhythms, and people are smart enough to predict and know how to read all these things over many hundreds of years and thousands of years. Just these many moving parts, and then it's like, oh, at this specific time is when this thing is going to happen, where these things will cross into this very. It's kind of remarkable to me that we even command that level of intellect, and I'm reminded of that a lot. Like when I'm in an airplane, I'm like, wow, this is kind of crazy, huh? Why is this thing up here? It's remarkable. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a joke. But the bigger thing is Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
It's not falling off. I just saw this morning that it's the best-selling game in the UK for the second month in a row.
Wow.
Which is almost unheard of. And it has sold at a higher clip apparently than Spider-Man 2 on PS5.
Wow, that's fucking crazy.
Wow.
Cool. And it's just kind of interesting. I don't know what the hell is going on with this game in some sense, because Sony is acting like they have nothing to do with it in a lot of different ways. They have not announced sales numbers. They put up some PlayStation blog stuff or whatever, and we'll tweet about it and put it on their socials, but there's seems to be no energy. Like they're almost afraid of doing anything. Like they're like, wow, we clearly didn't expect this. We were not ready for this. And we don't understand what's even happening. So why even get involved? Just let it do its thing. I think this is going to be this is an unexpected money printing machine for them.
Yeah. And
I'm softening my whole stance as I've had since it came out, where I'm like, this isn't quite what they're looking for at Sony. This might not fit the prototype or the archetype of what they are looking for, but might be what they get. And they should be very, very happy. I saw that it's still in the last 24 hours, it's had a high concurrent of 350,000 on Steam. It's that's wild. So many people, that's awesome, man. And presuming half or a little less than half are playing on PS5, it's just, we're talking about a game that's probably sold 10, 12 plus million copies. That's why I'm so surprised that they have not said anything. It's like, why wouldn't you say anything? What are you waiting for? And I do believe it's probably going to be in their financials for the last quarter, and that will be the full fiscal year as well. And they'll probably say something in there, but those sales will have cut off on the 31st. So we're talking about a whole nother weekend plus that we wouldn't even be accounted for.
Yeah.
Keep it up, Helldivers 2. This was an unexpected. You could just tell. I mean, it doesn't take a genius. I know the rhythms of Sony and all of that, but you can just tell by the way they didn't have a public beta. They didn't have a private, invite beta or a pre-order beta. They didn't have early access to a lot of these different tools and a lot of these different things that would have given them more information about maybe how hyped the people were about the game. Maybe it's underexposure as part of what was so exciting about it, but I don't see how it being so good and popular would have hurt it. The crazy thing is the game might have even done better if they knew.
Yeah. It is crazy
because they would have been able to position it better. But I see a Sony it's a second party game. So it's not like it's fully Sony's PlayStation Studios, but they own the IP. They paid for it. It's development, but they seem to be just kind of letting it go. And I find that restraint interesting. And I'd like to know why they're employing that level of restraint, like what tells them that they should do that. But I'll be surprised if they don't have a big declaration about it in the financials in, I don't know, we'll see it in like a month, I guess.
Yeah, well, Sony seems to be content just not talking that much nowadays, so
it's working out great.
Yeah, it's working.
It's frustrating for me.
Yeah, that's the host of the show. Yeah,
fucking somehow we still do 4.5 hour shows with no news.
Yeah,
no idea how the hell that's even possible.
It's a gift.
Yeah, it is.
Lockmore, what about you, dude? What about you?
Yeah, my keep it up is for Dustin Furman.
Oh,
and for a very good reason, because Dustin a while ago, I guess, said on Sacred, he put out a way how to deal with console warriors. Like he gave the advice to mute them on Twitter, and usually, or in a past life, I should say, I didn't do that. Like when somebody annoyed me on Twitter, I would just go hard and just annoy them back, or I would just retweet them or do some stupid shit, what everybody else does too, I guess. But Dustin is the one who taught me like 3 or 4 years ago, who told me like, no, don't do that. Just ignore everyone. Just never reply to negativity and you'll feel much better. And I started doing that then a couple of years ago, and he was absolutely right. Like if you don't react to negativity, it after a while it just doesn't bother you anymore. So I've been doing that ever since. And the last couple of months, I saw a lot of those console warrior tweets on Twitter appearing again from a couple of people who you guys also discussed on the shows, I think. That's why I left Twitter, or I left Twitter. That's why I just didn't look at Twitter for a week. But when I came back, I saw that clip that Last Time Media tweeted out that Dustin said mute console warriors. And I think that's such good advice. I think that's such great advice because it helped me personally a lot over the past few years. So I think people should listen to Dustin. I think that's really wise, really smart advice.
Nice. Yeah. Wise words from little Dusty boy.
And he also looks great. Like he lost a shit ton of weight.
Yeah, he looks really good.
Yeah. He looks amazing. Yeah,
a lot of discipline.
Shape.
Yeah,
a lot of discipline. I agree with his sentiment, and it's funny because I stopped posting socially really on Twitter in 2021. What I tell people is, and I DM people like friends of mine when I feel like they're kind of being babies or like. Like things that I wish that people did for me more when I was, being like, you don't need to do this. You don't have to do this. You get nothing out of this. It's like, you can still be mad. You just don't have to participate. And like that level of not participating is just like a whole different world for people. You have to learn how, I mean, I don't want to speak for others. I had to learn how to not participate. I had to learn how to not have something to say about something and to just let other people deal with the drama, and you kind of just schadenfreude it up, if I'm being honest with you, and eat it all up and enjoy it from, as long as when you're personally removed from it, it's almost like entertainment. You just have to look at it from like a level beyond participating. And I think that's a big thing for people. So get mad if you want, internalize it if you want, but you don't have to like give in to your basest fucking instinct. And I did for a long time. I wasn't that bad, but it's like, I would shoot off at the mouth. Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Good advice. My keep it up just real quickly is for Vanillaware, dude. I saw Unicorn Overlord sold over 500,000 copies. That's fucking awesome, dude. I love Vanillaware. I have not played this yet, but I really want to. And I'm so happy they're doing well. This has got to be one of their best selling games ever, as far as I'm aware. So
it's their fastest selling, fastest
selling, okay.
Yeah, but they probably have a couple that have sold. I mean, I know Aegis Rim sold more than 1 million. They probably have.
Oh, okay.
They probably have a couple of games or a few games that have sold like 1 million, 2 million, but nothing.
That's good.
Nothing too crazy.
Well, they deserve it, man. They're an awesome studio, and I'm glad they're thriving. So shout out, Vanillaware.
It's an interesting one for it to be the fastest selling, I think. Just based on some of the like Dragon's Crown or something would have been. More accessible.
So fucking good.
Oh, it is. It totally is.
So good. All right. This is from Kazden Risk. Hey, Summon Ussies. This Keep It Up is for the PlayStation Portal. Using to get the Platinum and FF7 remake, and I'm finished the last chapter on hard mode. As a dad with 2 kiddos, it's amazing. It's an amazing piece of hardware for sneaking in game sessions whenever I can. Keep it up, Sony. Yeah, people love that Portal, dude. Everyone loves it. You love yours, Colin.
Oh, it's awesome. Good to hear. It's awesome. it's a game changer. Pardon the pun.
This is from Meatball. Keep it up, Lockmort. I see you ruthlessly overtook the Mr. Matty Plays channel. How long before we can expect to see you running sacred symbols or summon sign? Will you use your newfound power to highlight anime shows? Probably not.
Well, by the time this goes up, you'll know tomorrow. We'll have a couple of announcements regarding that, maybe. But that was very nice of him. I appreciate that.
Yeah, good old Matty.
Very kind.
It's a good man. All right, this is from Davey Supo. What's up, sus boys? I want to give my keep it up to Colin for preaching that Xbox Game Pass is bad for the industry. It's a race to the bottom that teaches people not to spend money on games, and it's getting ridiculous. I have a few friends who play on multiple systems, and they are too far gone already. I was asking a friend if they want to play Helldivers 2, and I'm hit with too expensive. I'll wait until it's on PS Plus or if it ever comes to Game Pass. In what fucking world is $40 game too expensive? Colin, please keep fighting the good fight and force these kids to understand you get what you pay for, and games will be a lot different if there was only a Netflix-style subscription model. Loving the show, and as always, keep it up, and I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, you're
Colin,
welcome. I mean, that was obvious.
You were banging that drum very early, I remember.
Well, because it was obvious. I mean,
yes. Well,
it was just
a lot. You would, not to toot your own horn, but you were beating that drum much earlier than a lot of people, I would say. You're probably the first person I would say I heard say that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thank you. It's not that I'm happy that it's manifestly true. Like, that's why I was so surprised when at that weird fucking podcast they did when they announced they were going to bring games to other platforms, that they had said a number of like 34 million or whatever. And I'm like, oh, 34 million Game Pass subscribers is really good, actually. Like, it's not really good, but it's better than I thought. It's not where they need to be, but it's growth, because they had said 22, right? Or something like that. And then they didn't say anything for a few years or a couple of years, 2+ years. But then they had to clarify and clean that up. It being like, oh no, that includes like Xbox Live with Gold people that have become Game Pass core people or whatever. And it's like, oh, so you actually went down. Like, your numbers are worse than they were 2 years ago. No wonder you said it. So at that point, my confidence was totally steeled, where I'm like, oh, I was right. Like, it's not, it wasn't me just grasping at something anymore, thinking that something was obvious. It's like, oh no, the proof's in the pudding. I do think they have one final like trump card to play, which is Call of Duty. And I am interested to see like how they're able to massage that. I feel like people that play Call of Duty don't mind buying it, and will see the value in owning it as opposed to having being subscribed to something. I think that this was kind of the problem with Starfield in some sense. It's like, it's a very tantalizing thing to be like, oh, I get this as part of my subscription, but then you play it and you're like, oh, this is an 80-hour game. Like, why wouldn't I just buy it and not subscribe, And then you have it. And then maybe you would have gotten it through it in 2 months. And so you would have paid $30 for it, but you're kind of against the clock and you don't own it. It's gone. So I've said this many times, and I just want to reiterate for people that don't listen to Sacred or whatever, just to kind of give a clear view of it, is I do believe Microsoft made the right choice with Game Pass. Like, they were losing. They were losing badly. They had to change the rules and say, like, we're going to do something that no one else is doing. And we're going to build this Game Pass, this Netflix-like subscription. Remember, the embryo of this is in the mid-2010s, and it came out in 2017. So it's not like it's this new thing. They were right. They tried to do something different. But as Jaffe will always say, it's like they just didn't execute. Like, they don't have games. And what made it so strange is that the bigger they became, like, oh, it's like a Bethesda and buying all these studios. Well, first started with those 6 studios, and then it's like Bethesda, and then it's Activision. They became so big and started churning so much money internally that they actually had to put their games on other platforms. That's why it's inevitably not ending at the 4 games that they're bringing over, because their production costs are so high and they're not reaping the benefits on a stagnant Game Pass subscription that's just not growing, because the games aren't good enough and they're not attracting the third-party games that they would really need to drive it, because none of those publishers want to put their games on Game Pass. I mean, when people are saying like, oh, look, Exoprimal's on Game Pass, I'm like, do you have any idea how thrilled Capcom is to have fucking Exoprimal on Game Pass? They're probably like, they're like, you're going to give us what? Yeah, sure, take it. But you'll never see them put a real game on there because they want to sell it. And Microsoft simply can't pay the requisite amount of money that would offset that. And that is just true. And you can tell because over the years, they've never gotten a real, like, iconic level. Like, what? You have that crazy game? Because no one wants to play that game. So to me, I just think it was the right move, ill executed. And so you can't really blame them for trying, but they just didn't do it right. And I do think the unforeseen circumstance, I'm sure that they probably gamed this out and realized this might happen, but it did educate an entire player base not to buy games. Right. And if all you have to do is read the reports from GDC, where Games Industry Op-Biz was reporting, they talked to multiple developers and publishers all across the spectrum that were like, we don't even know why we put games on Xbox at all. Like, we don't sell games there. So he was saying it's something like a big AAA developer, like a smaller AAA developer, and like a mid-sized publisher. We're all like, we don't even know why we're even bothering at this point. Because if you're not inside the walled garden, if you don't get their upfront money, then there's just people there aren't buying games to nearly the level. That's why I always remind people, they're like, look at all the exclusives, that disingenuous shit that Microsoft pulled at the FTC situation, where they were saying like, these are the number of exclusives on PS4 and PS5. This is the number of exclusives on Xbox. And I'm like, dude, 80% of these exclusives on PlayStation choose not to publish on your platform. They're not, Sony's not buying these games. Are you crazy?
Right.
And by the way, why isn't Vampire Survivors on PlayStation yet? I wonder. So it seems to not go both ways with the way they look at things. Like, I was talking to Micah about that. I'm like, do you think that Vampire Survivors isn't on PlayStation because they don't want it on PlayStation? Are you crazy? Someone's paying them not to put it there, and I wonder who that might be. You know? So I don't know. I just want to be clear about that. I'm going on, and I'm sorry, but I just want to be clear that I think that the idea was right. It's not like to say like, oh, what a fucking stupid idea that was. It's not a stupid idea. It's actually a really good idea. But you have to execute on it so that when the unintended consequences of like, oh, they don't buy games anymore, it's like, oh, who cares? We have 55 million subscribers.
Yeah.
So we don't give a shit if you buy games or not anymore. But they're not anywhere close to that. Right. So anyway, I digress.
Yeah, we'll see how this year turns out for them. I mean, the beginning of the year hasn't been good, but with Hellblade coming out in May, maybe, then Indiana Jones maybe this year if it actually comes out. And Avowed, I think is coming out.
Yeah. Avowed's this year.
Which I'm excited to play those, but is that it for them this year?
They have that game Aura, right? But that's like a PC.
That's only a PC game. Yeah. Okay.
But that is a Game Pass game.
They have Metaphor coming out, which I'm really excited for.
Right.
I'm going to buy that game.
Oh yeah, I'll buy that too. Yeah, they have a nice relationship with like
Sega. With Atlas. They do.
Yeah,
Sega Atlas. They have a good one. They have a really good one.
That seems to be doing better for them, which is awesome. But again, not the home run they need. I just think Starfield was like one. They're at the plate, and Starfield was one strike for sure. Like that. I thought that game, if it was great, could have changed things for them. And I think Call of Duty is probably the next one.
Call of Duty is like the big one.
But I'll be so like, there's no doubt they're going to make hand over fist money on Call of Duty, which is awesome for them. But I am curious, like, what it will mean for Game Pass. Putting the game on Game Pass, like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
I almost feel like that might even hurt you in some sense. Like, do you imagine all the short-term Call of Duty players that play it for 2 months? So imagine, like, they'll play it for 2 or 3 months. You'll get $30 or $40 out of them. Why wouldn't you want them to just buy the game? This is the conflict that they found themselves in by becoming too big. It's like you actually have conflicting needs here in a major way. Right. Like, you need to sell a la carte copies of this game on your platform, on other platforms, because where is this? Otherwise, how are you sustaining these costs? It's just a strange. It's a shell game in some sense. Like, it's so obvious, you know. Like, but whatever.
Interesting time.
Yeah,
interesting time in the industry for sure.
It is.
Daniel Mitchell wrote in, "Hey there, Brad and gang. I'd like to offer a keep it up to the whole LSM team. On several different shows posted a few weeks ago, Dragon Quest XI was brought up multiple times, specifically the S version. I played the original version back at launch and kind of bounced off it. Due to the recent discussions, I picked up the S edition, jumped back in, and I'm really enjoying it. So thank you for digging up older games that we may have let slide or simply passed over. It's nice to hear older games get some love and not just the newest releases." Yeah, Dragon Quest XI is fucking awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Love that game.
It really is.
So good.
It's so traditional and cozy, and
yeah, it's so damn cozy, dude.
Yeah, it's a really, really special product.
Dragon Quest games are like the most cozy you can get. Hopefully one day we get 12.
Yeah, I'm curious, man. I'm really curious. It's been a while since they've said anything about it at all.
A long time.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh, just side note, you saw Yuji Naka's like back on Twitter or whatever.
Yeah,
Man, good old Yuji, dude.
Yeah, he rules. Yeah, he's talking shit about someone at Square Enix or something like that, but he's returned because his sentence is he like got a prison sentence, but it's suspended. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's so awesome, dude. Holy shit, Battle Wonderworld was terrible, dude. I reviewed that game. It was fucking not good.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Lockmort. Let's talk about Fallout 1. You're the PC guy, the old school PC guy at the crew. You played all those old games. I know I've only played Fallout 3 and 4, but I know Fallout 1 and 2 are very beloved games. Please tell me about Fallout 1.
Well, as you know, it's Fallout Week this week because the TV show is launching.
Oh, it comes out this week?
Yeah, this Friday.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that.
I thought it was already out for some reason. I guess I'm out of my mind. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try. I'll probably watch it.
They launched it all at once. Well, now it sounds like I'm advertising for them, but you can watch them. You can watch all 8 episodes all at once on Friday when they drop.
Cool.
Which is pretty cool. But yeah, that got me to think like, oh, I want to replay Fallout 1 because I haven't played that in like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
I played it when it came out in like, I think 97 it was. When I was just a little boy. So I played it back then and I didn't really understand it, but I thought it was pretty cool. So I figured, well, I'll just go back to it now to see how it kind of differentiates from 3 and New Vegas and 4 and to see where the differences lie. So I started it up again a couple of weeks ago and I forgot so much about this game, which was incredible, really, because it takes place, I think, 48 years or 84, 48 years after the war. So it's like a sequel, I guess, to 76. It's like the first game that takes place afterwards. But it basically has 2 stories, which I completely forgot about. Like in Fallout 1, you start in the vault, like every Fallout game except for 2. Mm-hmm. But the story is that you live in Vault 13 and the water chip breaks. So you basically have to find a new water chip for your vault. And the overseer gives you 150 days to go find it. And that's it. That's the entire story. So you have 150 in-game days to find this chip. And then the game ends. You can prolong those 150 days by finding like water merchants and hiring them to go back to the vault. So you can prolong that time, but the game effectively ends if those days are up. But then the second story, after you find that chip, I won't spoil it in case people want to play it, of course. But after you find that chip, there's another story that uncovers that has like a whole super mutant conspiracy plot attached to it, and like this evil super mutant called the Master, who wants like a super. Well, I won't say what he wants, but it's very very interesting.
That's sick.
Yeah, but what really surprised me about Fallout 1 was something that I wasn't expecting, and that is that it wasn't at all like Fallout 3 or 4 or whatever, and it also was in a lot of ways. Like Bethesda really didn't do much with Fallout. Like it didn't invent much, except Bethesda made it fun. Because when I went back to Fallout 1, it was more of a post-apocalyptic feeling than a fun 50s aesthetic. When you play Fallout 3 or New Vegas or a 4, I guess, or 76, it's also post-apocalyptic, but it's also fun. Mm-hmm. Like you have the catchy tunes and like the wacky characters and like there's still color in the world. Well, maybe not in 3, but in 4 there's still a lot of color in the world, or color is starting to come back. It also resonates in the quests there, which are very funny in tone, some of them. But Fallout 1 is really serious to the bone. Like it's a post-apocalyptic world. There's no comedic effects. It's much darker. Even the music is darker. You don't get like the funny 50s tunes or the 50s music. It's all very dark. It's all very melodramatic, very, very down. But it surprised me how much elements Bethesda took from, well, of course, they took it from Fallout 1, because everything is here, like the vaults, the Pip-Boy, the special system, VATS, super mutants, like everything is here, but they elevated it into something very different into in the 3D Fallouts, because this one is of course an isometric RPG. So it's more like, it plays more like Baldur's Gate. it's also way shorter. It doesn't have an open world. I mean, you can travel from like tiny spot to tiny spot, but it doesn't offer like the vast open world that 3 does or New Vegas does or even 2 does. It's very small. It has way fewer locations. You can also beat it in like, I think 20, 30 hours and then you're done. Like then you've seen basically everything.
Okay.
So it's much smaller than the later Fallouts, but it's also much smaller than Fallout 2. It's really funny that they started making Fallout 1 as like a spiritual successor to Wasteland. I don't know if you ever played.
Yeah, I've heard of Wasteland.
That's the In Exile series that's still going, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. 3 was amazing. If you, 3 was an amazing game. But Fallout really started as like a spiritual successor to Wasteland, and that's why it's so serious. But then when 2 started, they I guess they decided to make it more funny and put more comedic elements into it, because the first one is really dreadful. Like you're meeting a lot of people who are just lost hope and have nothing and just want to kill you. Even when you meet the Brotherhood of Steel, they're nothing like they are in 2 or 3 or New Vegas. They're more, I guess they're also pretty much evil in the later Fallouts, but here they're really not the good guys. Like they really don't want to help you, for instance, unless you go on a suicide mission for them. So it's so it's really it resonated with me how different and how similar it was to the newer ones. But it's so archaic in its design that it's hard to recommend for me. I love it because it's one of my favorite games ever, and it's one of my favorite genres, like a CRPG. But it's very hard to recommend because the combat system is so archaic, and also the way the game functions is so archaic. You get a cutscene at the beginning, you get a cutscene at the end. That's basically it. Everything is it's mostly text based. The inventory, you have to drag item per item. There's no collect all. The game doesn't really explicitly tell you where to go, so you have to find stuff on your own. So it's archaic, but in a good way to people like me anyway. So if you like CRPGs, I would recommend it. But if you don't like CRPGs, this is not gonna convince you otherwise.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it, and I'm just thinking about the menuing, probably the menus in the game. I'm like, oh, these are probably really dated and all that stuff. Like you were talking about, like just inventory management. And I was like, fuck, that sounds annoying.
Yeah, but even compared to 2, because I also played 2 after, even compared to 2, 1 is really archaic in like the purest sense of the word. Yeah. You can feel that it's like a game from 97. Yeah,
that can be cool though too. Yeah. I guess just whatever you're in the mood for. Is it easy to play? Can you just get it off like GOG or Steam or whatever? Cool.
Yeah, I got it from Steam.
That's good.
You have to kind of. I downloaded like a mod for it, like a patch mod, but that's it.
I feel like you always have to do that with old PC games on Steam and stuff. Yeah. Like it's cool. I just wish it didn't have to. I remember like with Deus Ex, I couldn't even get Deus Ex 2 to work on PC.
Yeah.
Let's see. Matt Vigo wrote in for quick. Oh, hey, Summoners. Quick question for Lock. I've probably started and not completed Fallout 1 5 times throughout my life. Can never stick with it for more than a couple hours. I'm definitely not averse to older games. I just played through the original Castlevania a couple weeks ago and loved it. Fuck the Hall before the Grim Reaper.
Oh, it's brutal.
Fallout 3 and New Vegas are 2 of my favorite games. So I really want to make it through 1 and 2 one of those these days. Do you think it's worth just popping open a guide to help me stick with it? Or would that cause me to miss out a lot of the magic?
I completely get what he's saying, because like I said, it's very hard to start with this game because it's just so old. But I would tell him start with 2. See if it's easier with 2 to connect, because 2 has a lot of quality of life improvements that'll probably help him. But yeah, 1. I think if you're old like me, then and if you grew up with it, then you'll accept it. But I think if you're like young or you're looking for Fallout 3 but in isometric form, there are other games that'll probably are more likable to you.
Wasteland, perhaps?
Wasteland, Underrail, there's a couple of them. Steam is full with them. Yeah,
cool. The Uncharted Wolf says, what's up, Summoning Squad? I wanted to ask Locke a question about his experience with Fallout 1. As a huge 3 and New Vegas fan, what I get a lot out of returning to the original game. I'm not familiar with the CRPG games, so I'm worried that I'll be confused jumping into it. Is this game a good gateway into the genre? Appreciate the high quality podcasts every week. is it a good entry point for the genre?
Well, you find out where everything originated, of course, because it's the original. So this is the first time you're seeing a vault. It's the first time you're seeing everything. But every Fallout already does that, basically. Like Fallout 3 explained everything to the player again, because it was in a completely new engine. So no, you won't get much out of it if you go back. There's one returning character, a mutant, of course, that's in every game, I think, except 4, maybe not.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah. But yeah, it's so hard, dude. They're also not on console, so you can only play them on PC. If you're really into the genre, if you're really into CRPGs, then yeah, of course. But then I'm sure you've already played it. So if you're new to the genre, this is not a good entry point.
What about Baldur's Gate 3? Do you think that's a good entry point?
Yeah, definitely. That's the best entry point you can get right now.
Yeah. Like I started with Divinity 2. Yeah, but I think Baldur's Gate's probably just a little easier to understand, like streamlined, I guess, maybe in smart ways, definitely. Smart design choices. Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is amazing. So yeah, you should play it.
If you want that Fallout feeling, play Wasteland 3, which is an amazing game.
Modern game. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
All right, Dragon's Dogma 2. I talked about this last week with Maddie and I can't remember what's happening, but I talked about it last week. What?
Maddie and Ben.
That's it. My mind is melting away. But we talked about it. I enjoyed the game. I'm having a good time. I'm like 28 hours in, I would say now. And I like it. Lock, please tell me what you were thinking of Dragon's Dogma 2.
Well, I'll keep it short because you already talked about it last week. I love this game. This is cool. This is my perfect game. For
your perfect game! Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Well, to someone like me, it's not a perfect game at all. No. But to someone like me, it's a perfect game. It emphasizes everything what I love about Western games. It has the exploration, it has the discovery, but what it has the most for someone like me is that it constantly surprises me. Every corner that I turn, there's something new or something pops up that I haven't seen before. Or I put it on Twitter, I think a couple of weeks ago. I was just walking with my pawns from one coastal city to the other coastal city, and I ran into an ogre, so I started fighting the ogre. But then an eagle swapped down and started attacking us, and I couldn't defeat the eagle, so I had to run away. And then I literally turned the corner, and there was a dragon, and I had to jump on the dragon, and then I couldn't kill a dragon, of course, so I had to run away from that one. And it just keeps amplifying these really awesome, cool hero moments that you don't get in, or at least I don't get in most other games. And the pawn system is so fun because you get to play with your friends, even though they're not really there, but they really comment on your game, and you can. If you have friends who are along where you are approximately in the game, they comment on stuff, and you bring them back to your friends, and then they give them messages or they give them gifts for you, and you really get to experience the game with your friends, even though they're not there, which is so cool.
That is cool,
I really love that. I see a lot of people like comment on the story and say that the story isn't good. I even saw some journalists say that it was the worst story that he's ever played, I think.
Okay. Okay, dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I get the sentiment, not that it's the worst story at all, but I get the sentiment that the story isn't for you. For someone like me, I like this type of storytelling because it's so weird.
Dragon's Dogma was a weird game, but awesome.
Yeah. And what is weird is fun to me because you can find ways to break the game a little. Like at the start of the game, you had to infiltrate the castle, or you had to go to a ball. But the way I did it, I stole like guards' clothes and dressed up as a guard, and then snuck into the castle, and they couldn't recognize me, which is so cool that you can do that. Like not many other games let you do stuff like that. Or a very minor spoiler. I don't know. Maybe you don't want any spoilers.
Well, you're warned. All right, come back in like 30 seconds if you're worried about.
Okay, the spoiler takes place really in the first 6 hours of the start of the game.
Okay,
so it's not that bad.
Okay,
but at some point you find like a thieves guild in like a little town, and the thieves guild, you find it by accident because it's part of the main quest, but you find it by accident, and then the main thief or the thief's headmaster or whatever you want to call it gives you this new skill, this new awesome new skill, and then you run off and you immediately try the skill, but the skill sets you on fire. and then I was like, well, what the hell is this? So I went back to the guild master and I wanted to ask him, like, what the hell is going on? But he couldn't tell me. Like, the dialogue options weren't there to ask him, what the hell did you do? So I walked outside and I fell through a hole in the floor, which I didn't see before. And then there was this weird platforming section I had to go through.
Yep.
And then I reached another Thieves Guild, which was actually the real Thieves Guild. And like the guy I talked to earlier was like a fake one who gave me a fake skill, which is so cool.
Yeah, that was cool.
No other game does that. I love getting surprised by games. It happens so little these days, but it used to happen all the time where games just fuck with you. And I love that. I love not knowing what is going to happen next. I love thinking that I screwed something up, but then finding another way to circumvent it. Like I know a friend of mine, at some point in the game, you need like a mask to go to a masquerade ball. And he sold his mask and couldn't find which vendor he sold it to. So he went on this whole personal quest to find a mask some other way, which is so cool. Like that's not even a main quest, but you still have to do it because you did something stupid, really.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the perfect sequel to me. Like I played the first game too, which was cool too. I really like the first one.
I like the first one.
But this one is just, it's like, so yeah, it's just perfect to me. Like there's, of course it's not perfect in like the technical sense of the word. Like there's a lot of, the frame rate is atrocious, especially in cities. I don't get how they screwed it up that bad, but it was just almost unplayable. I have a pretty good PC and I had to lower my resolution even to get it to be like acceptable. There's also a lot of glitches with the pawns. Like they comment on stuff that they just commented on, or
these pawns never shut the fuck up. It's so funny. Yeah. But you know what's cool about this game is like, if your pawn's annoying you, dude, you can literally just pick them up and throw them off a cliff if you want.
That's
it's just like so good, that kind of shit you can do. Like I love getting in combat and I just accidentally pick up like a goblin. I'm like, oh fuck, and I just like throw him against someone else. Like I just love shit like that. Like I was playing Warrior Lock and you like charge up a huge swing and you hit some guy and he just goes fucking flying like a baseball out of there. It's so good. The physics of this game fucking rule, dude. I love it.
Yeah, there's so many cool moments like that. Like I was in a tower with like harpies circling above it. I was just up there to open a chest, but one of those harpies swooped down and picked up one of my pawns and just dropped him like in the lake, and he was just dead. Yeah,
you're just like, oh shit. It's awesome, dude. It's fucking great.
Yeah, and it's also so cool that boss fights can happen at any moment. Like whenever you're anywhere, like a eagle can swoop in, or like a ogre can. It's beautiful. It's like the perfect. I told this to one of my friends. It's like the perfect Lord of the Rings open world game that we never got.
Oh sure, yeah, sure. I could see that.
If you pick the right pawns, then it's just I love it.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like the dynamic shit that can happen. Like I was in just the main town or whatever, and just a fucking dragon landed in like the center of everything. Everyone's like, oh fuck, and everyone started fighting him and shit. Like all the guards and people were getting killed. Is awesome. Yeah. Then he just like flew away. I also love that like quest guys can die. Like I had a quest to find something someone stole, and when I was talking to someone, he was getting killed by other people in like the background of my screen. I was like, oh, and I just saw him fucking die. I was like, oh shit, dude. And it was the guy that I need the item from, and I rezzed him with like a stone.
Yeah.
Then he got fucking killed again. I was like, wow, that was awesome. It's just like the NPCs just fighting each other. I was like, this is fucking sick. I love this.
What? Have you heard about the plague?
I've heard about it. I don't know what it is. Don't tell me. Don't tell me what it is. But I've heard about there's a devastating plague. And I was like, okay, well, if it happens to me, I want that to happen organically. Like if I get a plague and everyone just fucking dies, I want that to happen normally.
Oh yeah, well no, that's the only thing. Like everyone can die in the game, and you have like these huge mausoleums where they put the dead and then you can res them.
Yeah, it's cool. So just cool shit like that. I love.
Yeah, so every NPC can die, even the important ones, but you can always get them back, which is
it's great. Yeah. Colin, any interest?
No, it's one of those. I played the original Dragon's Dogma for just a brief time on PS3. I know that this game is treated like it's just Dragon's Dogma. And in fact, someone was saying about that about the start screen. It doesn't even say Dragon's Dogma 2.
It just says Dragon's Dogma,
True. Which is cool, because I was wondering on the show, I'm like, why didn't they just call it Dragon's Dogma? Like, well, just call it that again. And
I don't know.
no one I mean, the connection I know that people were excited about Dragon's Dogma coming back. I know they did the Dark Arisen kind of 1.5 version
expansion. Yeah.
So I know that people care about it, but it just didn't seem like they needed. And it was so long ago. It was like more than 10 years ago. You could have probably just made the same thing at this point. But no, it's at 30 frames, I believe, on PS5. And I just feel like they're just
or some shit.
There are just too many other games to play. I have no interest in
for sure.
Game. I just kind of let things wash off me. Like it's like, oh, Dragon's Dogma 2, there's just no way I'm gonna have time to play that. I've not even considered it, really.
That's fair.
Yeah.
It's definitely a game not for everybody. But I think if you're into it, it clicks with you, you're like, fuck yeah, dude.
No, it seems like people love it. So I'm amped about that. But not for me. There's so many other games to play.
Totally. Tyler Floyd wrote in, hey guys, Dragon's Dogma 2 is good, but does it not seem like you can't go 20 fucking steps without running into more enemies? It's making exploration feel more like a slog and dragging the experience down. Wondering if you all feel similar. Yeah, you can run into a lot of enemies pretty quickly. Yeah. Luckily, most fights don't take very long, I guess, but you can just run from stuff too. But the world is littered with guys to fight if you want.
Yeah, it's just a shame that they're all practically the same. Like they should have maybe put some more enemy variety in there. But you can run away from them. Like it's not like you have to kill everything.
Yeah, you don't. But combat's fun though, at least in the game. It's cool. The vocations are really fun. Like I unlocked the Mystic Spear.
Oh yeah,
I've been messing with that. It's cool, dude. I like it.
Yeah.
Because Colin has you probably know it has job system essentially.
Mm-hmm.
You can level up your jobs and all that stuff. It's fucking great.
Yeah, I love that kind of shit. It's just gotta draw the line somewhere.
Totally. Yeah, you're playing Rebirth, dude. You're doing just fine.
Yeah, and then I want there's just other really Japanese style role playing games that I really want to play. Like even brought Persona 3 up earlier, and just I don't know. I would rather just spend lots of time with those.
Totally get it. James Hill wrote in, how do you prolapse summon ussies? Brad, after you and Maddie tried to gaslight me into thinking Dragon's Dogma isn't a bad good game, I was being melodramatic after losing 15 minutes of progress after falling into a hole in a cave. I got cerebral about why I'm not vibing with it. I think it's because Dragon's Dogma 2 feels like it was made 10 years ago. The story is completely an afterthought. The only way enemies can kill you is stun locking you to death. And the whole flow of exploration is thrown off by how intentionally tedious traversal is. I feel discouraged to explore too much because of my inventory filling up and being literal days from the nearest inn. Dragon's Dogma 2 is great for people who like early 10s open worlds, but I've been spoiled by Elden Ring and the new 3D Zeldas. Am I being an entitled millennial, or is this fair criticism? Have a great day. Well, I'm a millennial too. You're a crazy person. We're all millennials, I believe. Getting stun locked to death. You can get stun locked to death, but I've gotten just fucking hammered by some dudes and just died. Like fighting guys I had no business fighting. I was like, oh shit. Like I've died a lot and it's been great. How do you feel about the travel lock? I know a lot of people.
I get it. I get it if you're not like it. I know a lot of my friends who got into this game didn't know what it was and like started hating it after a while, because if you don't know what you're getting into, then you're expecting like a huge open sprawling Western RPG, which
fast
it is,
travel, horses, like mounts.
Exactly, like map markers, everything, which it doesn't have. That's true. But that's part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's part of the whole part of, or a large part of the game is discovery, exploration, which you only get if you don't fast travel.
Yeah.
So that's why it's not in there.
Yeah. They give you some things like the carts are very manageable. Honestly, I don't think it's really a problem. You just go to the spot and you wait until the cart comes. You do the quick wait or whatever. It's pretty. But I think if people want like a horse or whatever, like they're talking about like Zelda and Elden Ring, you're not going to get that here. No. You got to run. You can fast travel, but it's just much more rare and not fast travel like you think of in other games. But also, I, for one, celebrate it being very different. I think it works well. But yeah, it's totally not for everyone. But James, it sounds like you've given it a fair shake. If it's not for you, man, it ain't for you. The story is more spotlighted this time than the first game, I'd say.
Yeah.
They've definitely put way more effort in the story this time around. Whether you care about it or not, it's a totally different thing. But it's good to see that. And it feeling like 10 years old, I could kind of see that in some ways, kind of, but in a good way. To me, that's a compliment how you said it. So maybe it's just not for you, but that's cool. Okay. Last question. Nuke Dukem wrote in. Good day, Brad, Colin, and the Belgian Stallion. I've been very intrigued by Dragon's Dogma 2. I love to play it, but I've also been very intrigued by Helldivers 2. Which sequel should I play first? Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Lock, I'll be there with you when the weebs get eradicated once and for all. Whoa, dude.
Tomorrow. Or well, when you see this today.
Tomorrow. So, Dragon's Dogma 2 or Helldivers 2 for them? Well, Nuke, this is a tough question to answer because we have no idea what kind of games you like. Helldivers 2 is cheaper, I guess. It's $30 cheaper. I don't know. Do you want like an online game to shoot bugs with your friends and stuff? Or do you want an RPG where you run around and kick the shit out of ogres and stuff? What do you guys think?
I haven't played them both, so I can't say, but I do think Helldivers 2 is awesome. You know,
Helldivers 2 is awesome. Yeah.
It's a really, really great game. If $40 is a really amazing value, I think, for it.
Yeah, for that game. Yeah. I guess just get Helldivers 2. Yeah, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Let's end the show as we always do with pretty much most of our podcasts with some questions from the audience. You want to write in a question? Patreon.com/laststandmedia. Head on over there. You can send questions to this show. Sacred symbols. Defining Duke. Punching up. All that good shit. So head on over there. This is from Tyler Floyd. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That was Dragon's Dogma. Let me go back down. Sorry, Tyler. This is from Matthew Christ. Yo, Sacred Seaman. Colin, I know you're a fan of Summoning Salt, which is really cool. Do you have a favorite video of his? Mine is the quest to beat Matt Turk, in which all of the speedrunners try to beat one guy's immortal Punch-Out records. Love you guys.
Yeah, that he's Summoning Salt's awesome. I guess I take most of like the Mega Man 2 one. I thought was pretty awesome, but they're all great. I've watched them all, and I just love that guy. I love documentaries. I've always loved documentaries. I love nerdy. Like on YouTube when I'm playing games, I'm often listening to podcasts or doing things, but I often just listen to like seminars. Like you can like listen to you can audit entire college classes on YouTube basically,
right? And
just sit there and listen to them like lecture after lecture, and I just do that. I just love nerdy, weird, shit like that. So with that in mind, like I take towards, a more like a different sort of tact with absorbing. Sorry, hold on a second. I don't mean to be distracted. My phone keeps going off here.
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's a calendar invite popping up over and over again.
Invited.
Accept. Oh, it's for the Ken Levine podcast. Why is that happening? Sorry.
Whoa.
It was distracting the shit out of me because I kept getting a calendar invite. I'm like, I'm in the show right now. Like I don't need to.
Yeah. Was that a scoop, dude? Ken Levine podcast?
Oh yeah, I think I might have said it on Sacred last week, but yeah, I'm gonna have him back on the show.
Dude, awesome. That's so cool.
To talk about Judas, which will be cool.
Fascinating guy.
Yeah, he's a mega interesting dude. I told him too. I'm like, I don't really want to talk about the game. I mean, we can talk about it, but I like to talk to you about other things, and he's into that. You know, like he likes to just
he just likes to
just go off, and he has that kind of power where he can have conversations like that. It doesn't need to be like towards an end, like when you're doing a media tour. You know?
Oh yeah. I would let Ken just do whatever the fuck he wanted.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
Summon Salt.
Oh, Summon Salt, right? So yeah, so I like that's what I was saying about documentaries. Is I like spending my time learning about random things, and it sounds like a strange thing to care about, like speed running. And people love speed running, but I mean, like the documentaries of like how people beat each other in speed running, but just like the production value of the videos. You can make almost anything interesting. This has been proven over and over and over again. I don't know how many like American Experiences or Novas or Frontlines or whatever I've watched over the years that are like just about the most random shit. So this kind of just fits right in. And yeah, Summoning Salt is a really, really, really great YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I haven't really watched any of his videos though, but I'll have to check him out. Mega Man sounds cool. So
yeah, it's just about how people break. It's basically just about the
speedrun scene, right?
Right. And about like the revolutions that happen in a specific game that allow people to jump forward to the next thing, like the people that have been like, oh, he discovered this and cut 30 seconds off.
Yeah.
That was like the
cool.
key 30 seconds. Or this guy discovered
awesome.
like the technique that you jump in Mario 64 that like allows you to do all this insane stuff, and all this branches off from that.
Yeah.
Like that discovery. So it's pretty
wild shit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is cool. Have you watched any of these videos, Locke?
No, but I wrote it down here because it sounds amazing. Yeah, I also love watching documentaries on YouTube, so I wrote it down. I'll check it out.
Man, YouTube's so fucking awesome, man.
Dude, it's great. Like and I don't have any. I was thinking about this. I have no subscriptions to anything like TV or movie right now at all. I guess I have Amazon Prime technically because I have Prime. I use Prime to shop, but otherwise, like no Netflix, no Hulu, no Peacock, no HBO, nothing, because I just watch
YouTube.
So much YouTube.
Yeah,
and there's just an endless wealth. If you're into documentaries, especially, like documentaries have been 70 years of documentaries are on YouTube. It's like insane.
It's wild.
Dude, I got sucked into this rabbit hole of watching late 50s, early 60s. I guess they would be like newsreel style things about how you should, like how a child should treat his parents, how a child should get his first job, how a child should study for school. I was like, what am I doing? And I got stuck into this. I kept getting recommended these videos. They're so fascinating. Like people just upload the strangest shit.
Yeah, I mean, like 100-hour Chris Chan documentaries and shit like that.
Right.
Yeah,
it's awesome. I love it.
All right, this is from Nikolai. What's a popular game you tried but just couldn't appreciate? For me, it was Horizon Zero Dawn. I was really turned off by the bad character animations during dialogue and the go here, talk to this guy quest structure. My breaking point was a boss fight that required arrows, but there weren't enough in my inventory or on the floor of the arena to kill him. I had to drop the difficulty from hard to story or something like that. Okay, that's enough yapping for me. Have a good day. So any game we bounced off of that we tried to like, but just couldn't do it.
Oh my God, many. It's funny because situations that he's describing to me are like breaking the game. And I've been in situations like that too, where it's like there's no way to progress or there's no way to do it the way you want to do it. I hate that kind of shit too. Games are way, way better about that today than they used to be, simply by making a shit ton of quick saves. That seems to be such an obvious thing that I don't know why games didn't do that more. Like we're just going to constantly save in the background. So like you never have any problems. And then you don't have to QA as hard even. I mean, I'll say that we were talking earlier in the show about games I haven't beat, which is unusual because I like to kind of see my games through. And Hogwarts Legacy was one of those games where I'm like, I just
got burnt out.
Yeah, like I played it for like 10 hours or so, and I'm like, I'm not really a fan of the IP. I must admit, like I've read the first few books,
sure,
and when I was younger, and I saw the first 3 movies, but I've never seen or read anything else. And I was really interested in it. I kept saying on the show, I'm like, it's kind of going to be a cool backdoor back into it for me, and I was looking forward to that. And I even started reading the first book again and all that. And then I was just like, oh, I'm not really interested in this. I am amped up though that it did so well for JK, but I am, it wasn't for me. It seemed like it was for a lot of people though. I mean, that's the best selling game of the last year. So.
I didn't finish it, but I played a lot of it. It was a good game. It was like a really good game. It was not like if I was like I like Harry Potter, but if I was like a super fan, I think it'd been fucking awesome, dude. So, yeah, man. What about you, Locke? Any game?
I'm gonna have to fully agree with him. For me, it was Horizon too, especially Horizon Forbidden West, the second one. I know you love it, Colin. So I don't want to be insulting.
I'm not insulted about it. It's not my game, so I don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't work on
it. I've tried to play both. I finished the first one, and I didn't really care about the protagonist or the story or the arena where it took place. And then the second one, I played, I think maybe 10 hours, and I was just like, okay, this is just not for me. Like, I don't vibe with Aloy. I don't know why, because she's likable, I guess. She just doesn't do anything for me, and I want to feel something.
I think a lot of people feel that way. Like, I think Aloy is okay. You know, I don't like love or like hate her. I think she's all right, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah,
but yeah, that's interesting. For me, dude, I wanted to like Star Ocean 4 so bad. I remember. Colin, I don't know if you played that, but I played the PS3 version when it came to that. Boy, was that like the most annoying characters I've like ever played in a game. Where I was like, the combat was fun, and I just could not fucking play anymore, just because everyone was so goddamn annoying in that game.
Yeah, I didn't play that.
Quit that game.
Yeah, that was that was a bad era.
Yeah, it was a dark time
opinion, for the genre.
Yep. Also, Hellblade, the first one, I played like half of that game, and I just couldn't see what people loved about it. Like, I guess like the narrative people really liked it. I just thought it was okay. The combat I thought was not good. The puzzles I thought were not good also. But I'm going to play 2. I'm hopeful for 2, you know? I hope it's good. You know, it's been like 7 years them cooking that game, so it's not very long, you know? I'll get through it. So I hope it's good. All right. This is from Ethereal Pizza. Hey, Summers, hope all is well. My question is simple. Am I crazy for expecting current day games to be released with 60 FPS? Or, at the very least, offer performance mode? I'm currently playing through Dragon's Dogma 2 on the PS5, and I'm really enjoying the feeling of heading out on dangerous adventures with my pawns and the interesting mechanics the game deploys. But fuck, does it run like piss at 30 FPS or with the variable frame rate? Almost to the point where I'm just going to put the game down and one day hope for a patch. I understand the overall majority prefer fidelity over performance, and I'm just a frame snob. But to me, that's insane. To me, the game actually looks better graphically at 60 FPS. What say you? Have a good one and keep up the quality work.
Yeah. Objectively, it looks better when it's moving, but when it's still, it doesn't.
Yeah.
These are the things people get hung up on. But I agree. Like I'm not a snob about it because I'm more of a new convert, frankly, this generation. But I don't want to play games that are not at 60 frames anymore, and I do notice, and it's not good, and it's disappointing. I hope it seems like the Pro is going to have very limited effect on this. We'll see, but maybe there'll be a Pro patch for Dragon's Dogma 2. I can imagine
that'd be great.
That being the case, that would affect it, or at least bring it up to 40 frames or some like interstitial, right? You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even on PC, it has frame problems. It runs like you can run 60 frames like I do, but yeah. I mean, I'm really happy this generation. At least we're getting a lot of games that do have performance and graphics mode. It's become much more standardized, and so I'm very happy for that. And I think that's totally cool. If a game's in 30 frames and that's it, I will still play the game. You know, it's not gonna prevent me from playing a game like I play Nintendo games. You know, played Zelda. I love Tears of the Kingdom, but it's like doesn't run great all the time. But I'd always prefer higher frame rate over graphic fidelity. Like I'll always pick 60 frames no matter what. Unless it looks like fucking hot trash for some reason. What about you, Lock?
Well, yeah, I play a game for the gameplay, so yeah, always 60 FPS. I buy every game twice we already talked about, but I bought Dragon's Dogma 2 on PS5 too, and it's unplayable to me. Like I can't do it. It's just unplayable.
Yeah, I get
so
it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the options like we do, it's fucking awesome being able to play on PC and stuff too. But yeah, I totally get that not everyone has that luxury. But
of course.
It is what it is. All right, final question is from Ernie M. Hey, sexies. On episode 14, you guys recommended BioShock to a newer gamer who wrote in. This makes me wonder, what is the most essential video game for a new player or for a new gamer to play? I'd argue Halo Combat Evolved since it pioneered the FPS genre and it laid the groundwork for cinematic storytelling in games. Love seeing you guys in New York. What do you guys think about this? Laid the groundwork for cinematic storytelling in games.
The original Halo?
Yeah, I don't agree
I
with
don't
that.
think so.
I don't think so at all. And pioneering the FPS genre, not even close, but it definitely had an impact on console FPS games. Big time.
Yeah, it's 10 years after the first-person shooter started. Halo came out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there is something about it being an Xbox launch game.
Mm-hmm.
It was impressive.
Oh, it's so
from a presentational standpoint, even it was.
Yeah.
But no, I don't. It's funny, man, because I think my answer, it depends on, I guess, your exposure to things, but it's like my answer would still be something really simple, like Mario 1.
Well, we chose BioShock because they gave us a list of games in their backlog for them to play. And it was like Witcher 3 in there and stuff like that. And we all just kind of were like, oh yeah, BioShock's great if you never played it. It's not super long. It's really good.
Yeah, it's like it's a hard. I don't know, like it's hard for me to imagine a person even going into a game today and not having some semblance of understanding of what you're supposed to do, like how you're supposed to control it, what the idea is. But if you're like trying to build someone up to understand things, I would want to take them at like these common denominators and build them up, like start them in 2D.
Yeah.
And start adding more and more to that and then bring them into 3D, which is a total paradigm shift. And then they have all this fundamental understanding of what a game is. Yeah. And it's very different to play in 3D space, but you'll always have that knowledge. Like it would be so interesting to give a person who's like my dad, right? It's like give him like he would have no idea what he was supposed to do with BioShock. Like he wouldn't even get it. You know?
I gave a friend of mine, I let him play The Last of Us last year, and he doesn't play games at all. And he couldn't he couldn't figure out how the controller works. Like he couldn't control the character on the screen.
I had my brother try Gears of War once, and like the 2 analogs throws people off a lot if they've never used it before.
Yeah.
Yep. And once you learn them, it translates to everything. You just need to learn how to use them.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are inverted and don't know when they start to.
That's true.
Like I play inverted. And
you're a freak.
Yeah, I am.
What game would you guys recommend for a newcomer to games?
Mario 1.
Yeah, RE1, great pick.
No, yeah, I was saying Mario 1.
Oh, I think you said RE1, like Resident Evil 1. I was no. Great pick.
No. Just like, again, like if I really were going to be like, I'm going to mold this person like clay, like a piece of clay, and they're going to understand like how to play. Like, I would start them in the beginning. Like, it's not the beginning, but that's a good place to begin.
Yeah, that is. What do you think about Mario 3 over that?
Oh yeah. I mean, that would make even more sense, but you're introducing like elements that are almost going to be too complicated at that point. It's like, okay,
sure.
You have a world map. And you can fly, and there are mini games and nonlinearity, and like it's like just learn how to move this character.
Yeah, that's probably a better idea. Yeah, you're right. Mario 3 is a better game, undoubtedly, but
significantly better game.
Yeah, but you're right. Mario, you just go. That's it. You just go.
Right, like the game's it's just linear. Like there's nothing to do. It brings you back to the beginning. You have lives. There's really no ways to trick it. You have things like the warp pipes and stuff, but you literally don't even have to tell them that.
Yeah.
Like, and don't even confuse them. Oh, secrets? You don't need to worry about secrets.
Yeah. Don't worry about that yet. You got a ways to go. Lock, what game would you recommend?
Well, it depends what their interests are. If they're
let's just say they've never played a game before.
Well, what movies do they like? Is it
okay? You want to go from that angle?
Yeah, because I think about my own friends, and when I know that when I give one of my own friends a Mario, he's gonna think it's too hard.
Okay.
So I would maybe think something like Tetris, maybe something like super simple.
Okay.
Like start at the basic, and then I don't know. It really depends on the person, I guess.
Yeah. If they like crime dramas, just give them fucking LA Noire or some shit for their first game.
Yeah. But I wouldn't give them BioShock, and I also wouldn't give them Halo because I would give them
too complex.
Half-Life before Halo.
Oh, Half-Life, huh? Half-Life 1 or 2?
Well, I like 2 more, but 1 is the original. So
2 is like the better game, though.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Let's go with Mario Brothers. Mario Brothers, the classic. That's what I started on. It's probably what Colin started on, or one of the early ones. What did you start on, Lock? Do you remember what your early games were?
The Secret of Monkey Island.
That's so cool, dude.
PC adventure.
Explains everything, really does.
It does. It does. I bought all those games on Steam for like $8, and I haven't played them yet, but I want to. They look awesome, dude.
They are awesome.
But I'll probably throw my monitor out the window when I try to figure out some bullshit puzzle. All right, fellas, that's going to do it for this episode of Summon Sign. Thanks for watching, everybody, and listening. We greatly appreciate it. Lock, Colin, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Love chatting with you boys. Can't wait to hear more about your Rebirth escapades, Colin, as you
continues
progress.
Tonight.
Yeah. And Locke, I'm glad you're enjoying Dragon's Dogma 2. You're loving it. That feels good, man. Any party words from you guys before we head out? Or should we just get the fuck out of here?
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. I appreciate everyone. I have nothing else to really say, I don't think. It's up to you. It's your show.
Yeah, well, just opening the floor to you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
I want to promote Lock, though, doing that Retro Rebound about LucasArts. Very long video. Put a lot of effort into. I think it's like a 50-minute video.
Yeah, it took months, literally months.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. So please check it out. Please watch it. I'm going to finish it also. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, everybody. We'll see you all again next week. Take care and goodbye. Summon Sign is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is written and hosted by me, Brad Ellis. The show is produced by Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. Summon Sign, along with the rest of Last Stand's media shows, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we are grateful for your kind contribution and generosity to our independent endeavor. Thank you.